Faced with a breathtaking blonde, things are already starting to heat up. Right after, a smiling redhead also turns on the charm. Then it's the brunette in a kimono's turn, and she drops a hint about wanting a normal life. Finally, the blue-haired girl appears radiant and confesses her feelings right to his face. With no idea how he ended up in the middle of this harem, our boy starts to panic. Suddenly, the sharp beep of a heart monitor cuts through the scene. Waking up startled in a hospital bed, our MC has no clue where he is. The doctor quickly asks if he remembers the accident, but the kid swears he's just a grad student. Just then, a flash hits him, a fire at the lab where he kicked the bucket trying to save a hard drive. Confused by the situation, he looks around and confirms he's definitely in a hospital. When he catches his own reflection in the mirror, the boy's eyes nearly pop out of his head. He blurts out that the face staring back is definitely not his. Hit with another sudden flashback, an image of a car hitting someone flashes through his mind. Putting the pieces together, our MC instantly gets it. He's been reincarnated into someone else's body. Discovering his new identity, he realizes he's now Kim Yu-sung, a student with a Korean father and a Japanese mother. Sifting through the memories, he finds out the body's original owner got into a car crash and ended up in a coma. But his real self was a goner in that fire, and somehow his soul ended up here. With his heart pounding, the kid celebrates escaping the living nightmare that was grad school. Trying to stay calm in the car, he decides not to jump to conclusions, since this whole body possession thing could end at any moment. But the big question now is how he's going to get used to this new life. Walking up the stairs right behind his new mom, the boy just goes with the flow. Curiously, his body moves on autopilot, already knowing the exact way to his room. Reaching the door, he gets a knot in his stomach, feeling like he's invading a stranger's privacy. Opening the door, our MC gets the shock of his life from what he sees inside. Staring at shelves packed to the brim, he can hardly believe this guy's peculiar taste. With the room full of magical girl statues, the second-hand embarrassment hits him hard. To put it bluntly, he concludes that the body's former owner was a card-carrying hardcore geek. Sighing deeply, the boy puts a hand to his face, already feeling a headache coming on. Sitting down, he's hit with the tough question of whether he can actually pull off tending to be this Yu-sung guy. After all, if his personality suddenly changes, his parents will notice right away. Facing the mirror, he analyzes his new look to try and understand the character he's supposed to play. Striking a pose with a hand on his face, he notices the wild hairstyle and the little bracelet on his wrist. In a stroke of genius, the boy jumps back as he connects the dots. Staring at a manga poster on the wall, he can't believe the coincidence. Shaking in his boots, our MC realizes this guy isn't just any otaku, but a hardcore fanatic. Rummaging through the shelves, he notices the previous owner was hooked on fighting and fantasy manga. Coming face to face with a bizarre elf cover, he judges the old Yu-sung's terrible taste. However, something about that cover sets off an alarm in our MC's memory. Picking up a volume called Scramble Love, he instantly recognizes the romance manga that sold millions of copies. Packed with every cliché imaginable, this series mixed classic formulas with the author's unique style. Except, at the end of the story, the author went off the rails and had the main character end up with his childhood friend, driving the fandom absolutely nuts. Remembering the online drama, he recalls people losing their minds on Twitter because the ending had zero build-up. Intrigued by the volumes on the shelf, the boy decides to give it a quick read, just out of curiosity. Completely hooked on the story, he loses all track of time and can't stop reading. The next day, already working at the family restaurant, he admits he pulled an all-nighter reading that ridiculous manga. Getting his attention, his mom asks him to take the orders for the customers who just walked in. Laughing at her son's face, she comments that he seems more normal today, and the boy mentally thanks his lucky stars he doesn't have to pretend to be a weirdo. Casually putting on his apron, our MC welcomes the new arrivals to the restaurant. But when he lays eyes on the new customers, he gets a major shock. Looking closely at the couple by the door, he gets the strong feeling he's seen these people before. Clinging to the blonde guy's arm, the girl makes a scene, calling him Ruji. Clearly embarrassed by the whole thing, the blonde kid scratches the back of his neck, wishing he could just disappear. Frying his brain cells, our MC finally puts a name to the face. Those two are the exact characters from the manga Scramble Love that he read all night. Without a shadow of a doubt, that blonde dude in front of him is none other than the story's main character, Sakamoto Ruji. Frozen in the middle of the restaurant, the kid tries to process the insanity that's happening. Putting it all together, he concludes this isn't just a simple reincarnation into a normal world. Recapping the facts, he was a student who croaked in a fire and woke up in a teenager's body. And this body belongs to a useless background character from the romance manga that was on his shelf. To make a long story short, he got sucked right into the book story. Panicking, our MC realizes he has no advantage because he only knows the spoilers for the ending, not the full plot. Playing it cool while waiting their table, he tries to calm down by listening to the main character's conversation. Taking a deep breath, he decides the best strategy is to simply stay out of the protagonist's business. With that goal in mind, he vows to live a peaceful life as just another background character. Springing into action, he starts a crazy routine, reading everything in his room and enrolling in a high school far, far away to avoid the main cast. Focused on his studies, he aces his exams and secures a full-ride scholarship as the top student. Not satisfied with being number one, he also joins the student council, becoming the pride of the school. Despite all this effort, the days go by, and the bizarre possession is never undone. Stretching his back in his chair after a long study session, he accepts that he'll have to fully adapt to this new reality. Planning his future, practically, the kid is already calculating part-time jobs and stock investments. But realizing that a sharp mind is nothing without a strong body, he decides physical endurance is the key to success. Struggling to do a single push-up, he realizes just how weak this extra's body is. Sweating it out on the bench press, he starts pumping serious iron in pursuit of the perfect physique. Savoring every new muscle, the kid gets bizarrely addicted to working out, even flashing a proud smile at the mirror. Just when he thought he was in control, the delicate footsteps of a girl sneakily approach him. Back at school with his briefcase, the boy notes that time has flown by. When praised for arriving early, he gives a confident smirk. But when they turn around, they're hit with a massive shock, seeing Yusung's new monstrous build. Still looking unapproachable, he bluntly replies that he doesn't know where his classroom is. Under the cherry blossom trees, the kid reflects that in the blink of an eye, he's already a sophomore. With a completely revamped look, he admits that his freshman year went by way too fast. During that time, he hit the gym hard, training like a man possessed. All of this happened because he needed to get huge to be able to protect himself. After all, in the crazy world of manga, aliens or Yakuza could pop up on any corner at any time. So, this insane physique isn't just for looks, it's prep work for the dangers of this dimension. With a firm posture, he swears he'll continue to live a quiet life without drawing attention. However, as soon as he steps into classroom 2B, he hears a female voice calling for Ryuji. To his utter dismay, the girl yelling is Yaguchi Maya, the story's main heroine. Looking like he hasn't slept a wink, the blonde protagonist is already complaining about his bad morning. Panicking at his desk, our MC realizes he landed in the exact same class as the main character. Annoyed with his own luck, he grumbles that he should have picked a school in the boonies. Up front, Ryuji tells his friend he lost his wallet and has a bad feeling about the day. The moment he hears about bumping into a stranger, our buff guy gets a reality check. At that exact second, the teacher walks in, telling everyone to take their seats. The teacher then announces that things are still chaotic because it's the first day of school. But without wasting any time, he drops that he has a very important announcement to make. Getting straight to the point, the teacher calls for a transfer student to enter the classroom. Radiant and sparkling, a breathtaking blonde walks through the door. Immediately, the entire class starts gossiping about the new girl's insane beauty. Making way for the girl, the teacher asks her to introduce herself to the class. She says her name is Kishimoto Rika, and that she loves sweets, cats, and naps. With the whole class drooling over her, our MC continues to sweat bullets in his seat. Logically, he instantly recognizes the new girl as another cliché heroine from the romance. Even without having read the whole series, he remembers she won the online popularity poll. Pointing to the back, the teacher announces exactly where the blonde will be sitting. To the MC's despair, the empty seat is right next to the darn Sakamoto Ryuji. Her eyes widening, the new girl freezes completely as soon as she recognizes the blonde guy up close. Pointing a finger at his face, she screams in shock, confirming he's the guy from earlier. Memories of their morning collision flash back, and she immediately starts laying into him, calling the kid a pervert. Finding the drama amusing, the teacher says it's great they already know each other and tells her to sit down. Fuming, the blonde sits down in her chair, turning her face away from the protagonist. She makes the atmosphere between the two super heavy and awkward. Trying to fix things, Ryuji pulls a wallet from his pocket and asks if it's hers. Red with embarrassment, she stammers out a thank you while our MC watches the whole show from the sidelines. Just then, a background character asks to borrow a magazine, and our boy hands it over without paying much attention. Sighing deeply, he reinforces that he didn't want to get involved in these high school plot twists. But since this world follows the logic of romance manga, he can predict the glitches. For that reason, he always keeps up with the magazines to try and anticipate any trouble. This way, he tries to stay updated on the bizarre romantic comedy tropes of this world. Out of nowhere, a blushing Ryuji stands up and asks the blonde to step outside with him for a second. Looking serious, the blonde says they need to talk privately about what happened that morning. Still suspicious, the girl agrees but warns him he only has 1 minute to talk. As the pair walks out, our buff guy gets a bad feeling. Using the classic excuse of needing to drop a deuce, he gets up from his desk instantly. Out in the hallway with a heavy aura, the kid looks like an anime villain. In the halls, people are already whispering rumors, saying he's a senior assassin for the Yakuza. Hearing these absurd rumors, he mentally thanks his lucky stars for having a presence that intimidates everyone. Picking up the pace, he decides he needs to spy on this event up close to confirm his theory. After all, to make his cliché predictions work, he has to gather intel from the source. Stroking his chin, the MC analyzes what the perfect setting for a secret school meeting would be. The obvious answer hits his sharp mind like an arrow. Bullseye, he finds the two of them hidden in a secluded spot behind the school. Without wasting time, Ryuji puts his hands together and desperately apologizes for bumping into her. Hidden in the bushes, our spy analyzes the apology technique, identifying the trap. Seeing the blonde turn her face and strike a pose, he realizes the cliché is in full swing. Playing hard to get, the girl gives a smug side eye to the blonde guy. Suddenly, she can't hold the pose any longer and lets out a loud laugh. With a huge smile, she says that Ryuji is much more innocent than he seemed. Leaving the kid confused, she tells him she's not petty enough to stay mad over a silly accident. Stuck in the bush, our MC rolls his eyes, frustrated with this cheesy couple scene. Based on his analysis, this radiant personality is exactly what makes her number one in the polls. Without blinking, he keeps his eyes glued on the couple from inside the thicket. Just as he declares it a classic opening, someone sneaks up behind him. Hearing his name called, the boy freezes from head to toe. Looking back, he comes face to face with a sinister-looking girl holding a fan over her face. In a totally accusatory tone, the brunette asks if he's doing something as low as spying on girls. Identifying the danger immediately, he recognizes Seonji Kumiko, the story's typical rich girl villainess. In the original work, she lost the poll badly and became just a tragic minor rival. In a ninja-like reflex, the kid yanks a branch off the bush and pretends he was just admiring the plant to decorate the council room. Facing the girl's suspicious glare, he tries to pass himself off as a perfectly normal background character to get out of this alive. Trying not to show his desperation, he maintains a firm posture so he doesn't give away that he was spying. With the useless branch in her hand, the brunette rolls her eyes and says she'll at least put it in the teacher's lounge. Mentally thankful, the kid lets out a sigh of relief for not being exposed right then and there. Without beating around the bush, as she crosses her arms and asks what the student council secretary is doing slacking off at the beginning of the semester. With a superior air, the girl announces she wants to gather the council officers for a meal to strengthen their bonds. Keeping up the submissive act, he agrees and starts following the leader through the school hallways. Finding the path strange, he questions if they're going to eat in the regular cafeteria. With a mocking little laugh, she teases him, saying he really doesn't know her at all. Dramatically opening her fan, the offended rich girl asks if he thinks she eats commoner food. She quickly clarifies that she has no problem with normal dishes, but demands a minimum level of culinary decency. Sitting in a fancy restaurant, our MC feels like a fish out of water eating Wagyu steak. Sweating bullets, he tries to explain that the school doesn't have pork on the menu to please her refined palate. Shocked by the lack of pork, she angrily questions what the heck they serve in the cafeteria then. Trying to remember the name of the popular dish, he mentions judon, but she finds the name too crude. Glaring at the imaginary dish, the villainess makes a disgusted face, making it clear she would never eat a peasant's meal. Suddenly, our MC is startled by a shout coming from the other side of the courtyard. Arriving in a huff and adjusting his glasses, a student in a tie complains that Milady disappeared without telling anyone. Startled, the brunette immediately recognizes Akaki Shinjiro, vice president of the council and her family's official bootlicker. Giving a death stare, the four-eye sizes up our boy from head to toe hostilely. Pointing a finger in Yusung's face, the psycho questions how a mere secretary dares to be with the council leader. Blushing with embarrassment, the brunette tries to smooth things over, saying she skipped her meal just to look for him. Confused by the lie, the MC thinks to himself that she was just complaining about poor people's food a minute ago. Nervously, she tries to cover up her blunder, trembling with the branch in her hands, while the vice president won't stop yelling. With a scowl, Akaki declares he will not tolerate disrespect toward his lady. Pounding his chest, the Four Eyes begins a dramatic speech, swearing to risk his life for the Seonji family. Seeing the bizarre scene, our boy notices the brunette dragging the vice president by the ear, apologizing for being late. Left alone in the middle of the path, the kid just stands there dumbfounded, trying to understand the madness that just unfolded. At the end of class, he heads toward the subway station to go home. In the middle of the crowd, he takes a deep breath, happy to have survived another day without any major incidents. Analyzing the scene, he concludes that today was the day the official story of Scramble Love finally began. He mentally celebrates the fact that everyone runs from him like the plague, thanks to the bizarre size of his muscles. Satisfied with his voluntary isolation, he lets out a sinister smile, thinking that turning into a tank was the best decision ever. Looking at the subway board, disappointment hits when he sees the next train isn't for another 10 minutes. Solving the temporary problem, he pulls out a can of soda to hydrate while reflecting on his peaceful life as an extra. Certain that he won't get involved in the main drama, he takes a relaxed sip of his drink. But the piece is short-lived as a super cheerful female voice calls his name. Choking on his soda, he's in shock seeing the blonde Kishimoto Rika planted right in front of him. Smiling as if they were childhood friends, she celebrates the fact that she bumped into him again. Without missing a beat, she grabs his muscular arm and asks for directions, bold as brass. Sweating bullets, he doesn't understand how the girl knows his name since they've never exchanged a single word. Pointing to his chest, the blonde shows him the ID badge with the name Kim Yusung engraved on it. With a cute little laugh, she says his name familiarly, making the boy even more tense. Trying to hide his nervousness, he scratches the back of his neck and realizes he really did forget to take off his name tag. With a bright look in her eyes, she says he's a really nice guy, contrary to all the rumors at school. Intrigued by the comment, the kid just stares at the girl, trying to figure out what's going on in her head. Full of doubt, he tries to understand where on earth the girl got the idea that he's a nice, easygoing guy. With an unamused face, he questions why she got that first impression of him. Striking a thoughtful pose, the blonde says she noticed his dark aura in the classroom and got curious. Mentioning the crazy rumors, she says she heard he took on a whole biker gang by himself. But dismissing the gossip, she says she thought he was cool for letting the student council president treat him poorly without fighting back. Covering his face with his hand, the MC realizes the girl has made a colossal error in judgment about his motivations. Frustrated with the situation, he realizes he's accidentally caught the attention of one of the main heroines. Looking at her smiling face, he instantly understands why the blonde is #1 in popularity. Cutting through his thoughts, the girl gets his attention and demands an answer about him being a nice guy. Snapping out of his trance, he quickly apologizes, trying to end the conversation before things get worse. Thanking her for the weird compliment, he hopes she'll just go on her way and mind her own business. Persistently, the blonde says the rest of the class doesn't understand him, but she knows he has a good heart under all those muscles. Tired of arguing, he decides it's easier to just go along with the girl's delusion and let it go. Smiling widely, she declares herself the buff guy's official friend and asks him to look out for her from now on. Giving up on pushing the heroine away, the boy accepts his fate and stops, trying to scare the girl off with his mean face. Realizing that whether he was isolated or tried to make friends, the outcome with the blonde would be the same, he accepts the forced friendship. Determined not to ruin the main story, the boy accepts that the show of being a background character must go on, no matter what. Putting his hands in his pockets, he agrees to the friendship, trying to convey as much confidence in his performance as possible. Excited about the new alliance, the blonde shows him her phone screen, asking for directions to a station in Tokyo. Staring at the screen, the kid confesses he has no idea how to get there because the subway lines are too confusing. Analyzing the address, he notices the station is in a fancy neighborhood and deduces the girl has money to spare. Celebrating his answer, she says they live close to each other and can take the train together every day. Surprised by this information, he realizes their neighborhoods are practically next to each other. Giggling, the blonde finds it all very amusing and calls it fate, while he's sweating bullets. Reflecting on the plot twists, the MC goes on high alert with all this proximity. Remembering his notebooks, he admits he doesn't know the original story well enough to predict these things. Accepting defeat, he decides the best move is to keep the blonde close to gather direct information and avoid bigger disasters. Planning to use this to his advantage, the kid concludes that blackmailing Rika for gossip is a pretty good deal. Assessing the risks, he thinks that getting involved in the romantic comedy arc won't drastically alter the main plot. Breaking the silence, he calls the blonde and offers to buy her a drink to seal their bizarre friendship. Standing in front of the vending machine, he tells her to pick whatever she wants as proof of their new friendship. Gulping down the soda in one go, the blonde looks like she's in heaven, enjoying every sip. With a smile from ear to ear, she thanks him and says nothing beats an ice, cold Coke. Noticing her addiction, the kid comments that she must be a huge fan of cola. Responding cutely, she confesses she was cutting back on soda for her diet. Pulling out her phone, she proudly shows him pictures from when she was a child model. Surprised by the information, he takes a look at the photo and agrees the girl has a talent for modeling. But looking closely at the face in the picture, he turns to her and points out that she looks a bit different, maybe because of the makeup. Immediately offended, she yells that she doesn't wear makeup and quickly tries to change the subject. Just then, the train pulls into the station, and she dodges the question, running to board before the doors close. Sitting in the train car, two gossiping old men start whispering, calling our MC a thug because of his size. Uncomfortable with the side eyes, he tries to ignore the comments while wondering how he's going to endure this trip every day. Laughing at his dumbfounded expression, the blonde jokes that taking the train has become a tense event, and that he's basically her human shield. Pulling out his pocket map, he studies the transfer routes to figure out how the girl is going to get home. Pointing out confusing paths on the map, he tries to explain while she doesn't understand a thing, laughing at the confusion. Leaving the station together, they walk through the neighborhood, saying their goodbyes, and she swears it was the best day ever. Confirming her station is the next one, the kid thanks her for the peaceful company so far. Waving from inside the train, the blonde smiles, saying she's counting on him again tomorrow. Shocked by the daily summons, he realizes he won't be able to escape her on the train anytime soon. Alone on the sidewalk, he reflects on how the #1 heroine chose him, of all people, to stick to at school. The next day, the lunch bell rings, and everyone's stomachs start to rumble. Realizing she forgot her lunchbox, Rika gets sad, imagining being hungry all afternoon. Meanwhile, opening his bento box, our kid gets ready to eat his kimbap in peace. Popping the first roll into his mouth, he enjoys the quiet of his hidden break spot. Out of nowhere, a blonde head of hair appears in the corner of the courtyard, catching him with his mouth full. Desperately, she cries, saying she can't believe he hides his lunch and eats alone every day. Trying to downplay it, he explains that his huge arms scare the other students, so he prefers to keep to himself to avoid trouble. Shrugging, he says it's better this way to avoid rumors, and that people need time to get used to his look. Shaking, the blonde finds it absurd that he has no one to eat with and says that being with people is super important. Staring hypnotized at the box, she recognizes the Japanese food and asks if she can have just one to try. Agreeing to share his lunch, the boy thinks about how quickly her mood changes, since she was just crying a second ago. Overjoyed with the free food, she says it's much more fun to eat with company than to cry on an empty stomach. A bit embarrassed, he apologizes, warning her that it won't happen tomorrow because he brings the same lunch every day, and she might get sick of it. Savoring the rice roll, the girl proves she deserves the title of heroine, oozing charisma with every chew. Shouting her approval, she praises the seasoning, confirming the rumor that his family owns a top-notch restaurant. Shy from the compliments, the big guy plays it down, saying it's just rice and meat, but tells her to let his mom know if she really likes it. To make it a fair trade, the blonde offers to swap a piece of her special omelette for his kimbap. Taking the juicy piece of egg, he pops it right into his mouth without ceremony. As the bizarre flavor explodes on his tongue, his pupils dilate in shock. The strange taste makes his body freeze for a second, not understanding what he just swallowed. Nauseated by the overdose, he realizes the recipe comes from someone with a kid's palate destroyed by sugar. Coughing, he asks how many spoonfuls of sugar she threw into that thing to make it so sweet. With a disgusted look and a dark aura, the buff guy says too much sugar is bad for you and promises that next time he'll bring a real Korean omelette without sugar. Confused, the girl asks what he puts in the Korean recipe, and he replies that it's just salt, leaving the blonde outraged. Finding it absurd to eat eggs with salt, she accuses the Koreans' taste buds of being broken. Laughing at their culinary fight, the mood suddenly shifts, and a heavy presence is felt in the courtyard. Looking into the distance, they spot a weird duo with faces that scream trouble. Annoyed by what she sees, the student council president approaches, furiously blowing a referee's whistle. Shaking with anger under the shadow of her bangs, the brunette vows that the heavens may forgive such immoral acts, but she won't. Stomping her foot hard, she lifts her head and declares that secluded meetings during lunch are forbidden. Confused by the sudden rage, the kid stammers, asking what she meant by an improper relationship. Taking a firm step forward and facing them, the four-eyed vice president deepens his voice, taking control. Calling our MC by his full name, Akaki judges him with a superior look and calls him a coward. Tired of the silly accusations, the boy says he was just eating and questions why the two of them keep showing up out of nowhere. Pointing a finger in the big guy's face, Rika intervenes, saying it's way too weird to find them lurking around every single day. Turning her aim, the president glares daggers at the blonde, daring her to say another witty remark. At that moment, the blonde connects the dots and points laughingly at the brunette, calling her President of Darkness. Frozen, the villainess hears the embarrassing nickname, repeating it quietly to herself as she processes the humiliation. Full of mockery, the heroine says she now understands the reason for the nickname. After all, the brunette only ever wears black and walks around with a heavy aura. Exploding with rage, the president shouts indignantly about the honor and dignity of the official council uniform. Not missing a beat, Rika taunts her, asking if the president has the guts to admit it's just an emo cosplay outfit. Unsettled, the brunette realizes she's become a school-wide joke and the nickname will stick for the rest of the year. Running off in desperation to escape the shame, she vows revenge, warning that this isn't over. Seeing his offended goddess run off crying, the Four Eyes chases after her, calling her name and tripping over his own feet. Leaving the two alone, Rika finds the escape hilarious, but the MC is left thinking about their childish rivalry. Shrugging, the boy states he has no idea what just happened and just wants to go back to eating in peace. At the end of the school day, the same cheerful voice of Rika echoes, calling the Korean's name in the empty hallway. Leaning on his desk, she finds it strange that he hasn't left yet and asks what his excuse is today. With a club guide pamphlet in his hands, he explains that being on the council last year left him no time, but now he's thinking of joining one. Giving the most generic idea possible, she pulls him by the arm and suggests visiting all the clubs today to test out the options. Thoughtfully, he concludes that taking action and trying everything himself is much better than just sitting around thinking without doing anything. Confirming his decision, he closes his eyes in concentration and agrees to visit the places to be absolutely sure. But without giving her a chance to breathe, he announces he's not going to just one, but all of them in the same afternoon, surprising the blonde. With a malevolent smile and a dense aura surrounding him, the MC scares even his own shadow with his plan. Cracking his knuckles with a crazy look, he reveals that the real intention behind this is to finally test the limits of his insane strength. Arriving at the door of the soccer club, they can already hear the sounds of practice in full swing. On the field, the ball flies everywhere and hits the crossbar hard with a poorly aimed kick. Seeing the player's terrible aim, the crowd on the sidelines laughs and makes fun of the newbies. Annoyed by the mistakes, the seniors cross their arms and curse out the kids for missing 5 shots in a row. Laughing at his partner's face, one of them retorts that his buddy hasn't made a single one either. Full of swagger, a senior steps up, telling them to pay attention and learn how to score a real goal. Suddenly, a background character interrupts, calling the pair lazy, which instantly makes the mood tense. But upon seeing the number 10 player approaching, everyone's eyes widen in shock as they recognize the team's legend. Looking unamused, the captain tells them to clear the field, because the main practice is about to start. Drooling with fear, the crowd warns that it's Zero, back Ryohei, the third-year captain known for not forgiving anyone. Shaking like a leaf, the cocky seniors bow, apologize, and quietly sneak off the field. Sighing deeply, the background character thanks the captain for getting rid of the annoying freshmen who were disrupting practice. Cutting the small talk, the captain asks directly if there are any decent freshmen among the whole mess. Looking worried, his partner confesses that finding talent this year to win nationals is tough. Dreaming big, he says that if they could just find one really strong freshman, the championship story would be completely different. Gritting his teeth, the chased off-jerk senior mutters that he's ticked off about the humiliation he just went through. Instigating a fight, his partner asks if they should go back and beat up the captain. Laughing nervously, the other one recalls the legend that Ryohei's kick exceeds 100 kilometers per hour and says he'd rather live. Trying to act tough, the first one retorts that a street fight isn't soccer, and that experience counts for much more. In the middle of their useless argument, someone taps the guy's shoulder hard, cutting his sentence in half. Looking back, he comes face to face with our giant MC, staring him down with a threatening aura. With a deep voice and a piercing gaze, the kid tells the senior to repeat the threat he just made against the captain. Sweating bullets, the duo instantly realizes who the giant calling them out in the hallway is. Screaming in panic, they recognize the infamous Kim Yusung, the mad dog, and run for their lives. Confused by the quick escape, the Korean looks at Rika, asking what the heck just happened. Nearby, the crowd gossips, impressed, thinking he defeated the delinquents with just the power of his intimidating glare. Worried, the blonde reminds him that he shouldn't be picking fights on the very first day of club visitations. Scratching the back of his neck, he sighs in frustration, because he only stopped to ask where the field was, and the guys just took off running. From the field, the number 5 background character hears the noise and notices the big guy's presence at the club entrance. Alerting the captain, he points tensely, asking what the heck Kim Yusung is doing at their practice. Drooling with despair, the team already thinks he came to break the whole team in revenge against the guys who ran away. Trying to stay calm, the captain tells the guys to relax, as he doesn't think it's something so petty. Sweating profusely, a student recalls the rumor that he's a problem child banned from all clubs for his brute force. Thoughtfully, the captain agrees the legends aren't good but decides to wait and see what the freshman is up to. Approaching with heavy steps, Yusung's aura intimidates even the bravest on the team, proving the rumors were no exaggeration. The tense silence, the captain steps forward and asks directly if he is the much-talked about Kim Yusung. Introducing himself firmly, the captain officially welcomes him to the club and questions the reason for his visit. Without beating around the bush, the kid says he wants to try out for the team and asks what the admission test is. Eyes widening, the captain notices the absurd height difference between them and feels like a dwarf next to the Korean. Drooling over his genetics, the senior notes that the uniform is nearly tearing over his absurd muscles and wishes he had this mountain on his team. Mentally celebrating his great luck, the captain already visualizes the national championship trophy in his hands. Fixing his gaze on the muscle machine, the captain swears to himself that he will put this monster on the starting lineup, no matter the cost. Clearing his throat to hide his enthusiasm, the senior explains the rules of the practical admission test. Pointing to the goal, he says it's simple: a single kick from the penalty mark with as much force as possible. Accepting the challenge, Yu-sung gets into position, promising not to hold back any of his monstrous strength. Focusing the energy in his arms, the big guy concentrates his power to unleash it all in this single, decisive kick. Grunting with effort, his legs build tension as if they were springs ready to snap. He yells the word, "Stakeout," pushing his own physical limits. In an explosion of power, he swings his leg with a monumental kick that kicks up dust all over the field. Breaking the sound barrier, the impact of his foot on the ball sounds like a bomb going off. On the field, the team goes silent, trying to process the absurd speed of that bizarre kick. Looking at the goal net, the captain realizes there's nothing in it, and the ball has vanished. Desperately, one of the students realizes what happened and screams, shocked by the test result. In the middle of the grass, the poor official leather ball is completely deflated and torn in half by the impact. Laughing in desperation, Yu-sung scratches his head, admitting that soccer isn't his thing, and asks Rika for suggestions. Consulting the pamphlet, the blonde cheerfully points out that the baseball and basketball clubs are right next door. In the school hallways, the gossip spreads like wildfire, saying that the crazy Yu-sung is now heading to wreck the basketball gym. Excited, the crowd rushes after him to get a front row seat to the show of destruction. Observing the crowd, the student council president smiles with satisfaction, seeing that the monster has finally started to act. On the court, it was no different. With a monstrous dunk, Yu-sung shatters the glass backboard, leaving everyone in shock. Moving on to baseball, he swings the bat with such force that he breaks the entire metal backstop of the field. Passing by the tennis court, he hits the ball with a racket so hard that it pierces the concrete wall, opening a giant hole. In her little notebook, Rika crosses off all the clubs with a big X for fail after the disasters. Excited by the mess, the girl celebrates that he cleared all the sports as if it were a video game level. Tired of destroying school property, the MC asks how many clubs are left to finish this torture. With a clever little laugh, Rika holds up the notebook mysteriously and promises to answer his question. Suddenly putting on a pair of fake prescription glasses, she strikes an intelligent nerd pose, surrounded by little stars. Reading her notes, she explains that aside from the clubs that don't have practical tests, there are only 3 options left on the menu. Starting with the track and field club, she explains that the focus is on improving everyone's stamina and concentration. Right after, she points to the swimming club, perfect for working on cardio and toning the whole body in the pool. Finishing the list, she shows him the Kendo club, ideal for training mental discipline and enduring life's beatdowns. Taking off the glasses with style, the blonde confirms the summary is complete and awaits the boy's decision. Sighing with relief, he thanks her for the report, but swears she didn't need to get all dressed up to say that. Smiling, ignoring his comment, she asks excitedly which of the 3 they're going to now. Looking at her thoughtfully, the kid asks a question that makes her turn completely red, asking if she's ever tried acting in addition to modeling. Quickly changing the subject, she says he's good at pretending to be scary and suggests they forget about it if he's not an actor. Blushing, she shrinks against the wall, fidgeting with her fingers, and admits she's embarrassed to talk about it. Smiling sheepishly, she confesses she's done some acting work in the past. Surprised by the revelation, the kid freezes and a shiver runs up his spine. Noticing the cheerful heroine's unusual shyness, he concludes there's some dark story in her past that the manga didn't cover. Scratching his head, he reflects that if he plans to change the original plot, he'd better investigate the blonde's secrets before it's too late. Without pushing, he agrees to change the subject and points out they still have 3 clubs to visit. Assessing the situation, he judges that forcing the issue now will only push the girl away, and it's best to let the dust settle. Taking the lead, he points to their next destination, deciding to start with the Kendo club right away. But as they get closer to the Kendo dojo, they notice a strange and noisy commotion at the door. Spreading panic through the hallways, the background characters scream in desperation, announcing the arrival of the Mad Dog. Fearing his history of destruction, the crowd comments that he's already broken half the school, and now he's going to destroy the Kendo club. In the crowd, some students tremble with fear and ask the blonde what she's doing walking around with a monster like that. With a nervous little laugh, she quickly makes up that she's his manager and tells the crowd to talk to her if they want an interview. Facing the chaotic situation, Yusung sighs in frustration, feeling that his reputation as a destroyer has already gotten out of control. Gossiping in the corners, the female students whisper that he's just using the excuse of visiting clubs to pick fights with everyone. Stomping hard on the tatami mat, the captain of the Kendo club appears, banging her wooden sword on the ground to get everyone's attention. Impressed, the audience drools over Captain Fumayukika's firm posture, praising her courage. Keeping his cool, Yusung defends himself, saying he just wants to participate in the admission test and asks her to explain the rules. Laughing in his face, the ponytail-wearing captain mocks the big guy's swagger, thinking it's all for show. Pointing the wooden sword at him, she lays out the rules, saying the first one to land a clean hit wins. Unafraid of his mean look, she throws the sword over her shoulder and says she'll be his opponent if he has the guts to enter the dojo. Excited by the confrontation, the crowd celebrates the chance to see the captain humiliate the school's monster student. Taunting the Korean, the background characters shout for her to wipe the floor with his face, demanding an admission fee for the show. Adjusting her fake glasses, Rika finds it funny how the students are rooting against him, as if he's the final boss of a game. Stressed by the shouting, the captain yells for everyone to shut up immediately. Shaking with fear, the gossips gulp and silence takes over the place. Maintaining order, she declares that the fight is exclusively between her and Kim Yusung. With a bloodthirsty look and a malevolent aura, she warns that if anyone wants to interfere, they'll have to fight her first. In absolute panic, the crowd backs away, afraid of getting beaten up by the psycho who runs the club. Observing her posture, Yusung whispers to Rika and admits that this captain is on a whole other level of strength. Smiling, the kid feels a different kind of excitement, realizing that things are about to get serious. Staring at her threatening aura, he has a vision of a giant snake ready to strike with its venomous bite. Talking to the blonde, he asks her to wait outside because the fight inside is going to be intense. In a fighting stance, the captain asks if he's sure he doesn't want to wear protective armor. Looking at his own body, he jokes that the club wouldn't have a size big enough for his arm. To be fair, the captain takes off her own armor and warns that she's not responsible for any broken bones. Laughing at the threat, he taunts her back, saying she has a sense of humor and that he's not the one who's going to get hurt. Holding the wooden sword tightly, she vows that he won't be able to lay a single finger on her uniform. At an absurd speed, she closes the distance and brings the wooden sword down, aiming for Yusung's skull. Dodging by a hair's breadth, he compliments her technique, admitting she's not all talk and knows how to hit hard. Spinning the sword, she keeps pressing with swift strikes, trying to break his defense. As their swords clash, the impact makes a loud noise echo through the gym, proving both their strengths are brutal. Retreating, she gains distance and throws the sword up, preparing to use a super cheap secret technique. With a confident smile, she thinks the idiot will never be able to break the imaginary magic circle of her defense. In a final charge, she declares that playtime is over and goes all out against him. In an animalistic reflex, the Korean spins his body, dropping the sword, and dodges the deadly blow aimed at his throat. The force of the wind generated by the strike is so strong it shakes the curtains and cuts the air in the gym. Sweating bullets, the captain feels the monstrous pressure he generated and understands the danger she was just in. With his legs shaking, the Korean admits to himself if he had been a second later, his head would be split in two. Swallowing her pride, she admits she severely underestimated the delinquent's size and speed, and now needs to change her strategy to survive. With the vision of the giant snake summoned behind her, she promises to finish him with the next blow, giving him no chance to defend. Shouting the name of the move, Shu secret clan art, she brings the sword down with all the force of the universe, aiming right for his chest. But before the stick hits, he raises his bare arm and blocks the blow on the bone, without even flinching. Feeling a crack, he groans in pain from the impact of the blow that definitely left a mark. In shock at the scene, the students in the back can't believe he Tanner clan's invincible secret technique with just his forearm. Smiling victoriously, the captain celebrates that she landed a hit and swears the Korean's reign ends this second. But before she can finish her sentence, her face is slammed by an invisible and violent force. Spinning through the air, she spits blood and flies backward, not understanding where the hit came from. Falling to the ground injured, she analyzes that he didn't even use the sword and asks where he got that bizarre killing technique. With his sword lowered, the MC doesn't understand the captain's confusion as she lies on the dojo floor. Trying to catch her breath, she stares at his puffed out chest and pieces together the physical mystery. With his giant pectoral contracted, the kid proves he doesn't need magic or secret techniques because his physique is pure, raw muscle defense. The next day, the rumor has already spread to every corner of the school. confirming that he finished his journey by destroying all the sports clubs without mercy. Gossiping like crazy, people whisper that both the soccer captain and the Kendo captain ended up in the hospital. Certain that things have gotten out of control, the background characters declare that Kim Yoo-sung is now the absolute king of the school hierarchy, and no one can touch him. Trying to focus in class, the kid rests his head on the desk, admitting that his strength is greater than he imagined and that the rumors have become a wildfire. Observing the blonde protagonist chatting casually in the back of the class, Yoo-sung notices that even with the chaos, Ryuji seems untouched and is ignoring the gossip. Happy with this distance, the Korean is thankful and celebrates, saying that Ryuji lives his little life while he lives his as a super strong extra. Suddenly, the classroom door is thrown open violently by a short-haired redhead who storms in, screaming Ryuji's name with hatred in her eyes, telling him to get out now. Startled by the commotion, the whole class stops and stares at the angry girl in the doorway, wondering what's going on. Standing up slowly, the blonde asks confusedly who the loud girl is, and she introduces herself as a member of the Kendo club, full of rage and with no patience for him. Getting in Ryuji's face, she accuses the blonde of beating up her team's freshmen after visiting the poor guys in the hospital. Desperately, the protagonist tries to defend himself, saying he didn't hit anyone and that she's confusing him with someone else. Behind, the giant kid watches everything and freezes on the spot when a heroine with huge boobs and a bandana in her hair steps in to try and break up a fight that isn't even hers. Questioning the redhead in front of everyone, the Kendo captain asks if the freshmen from her club were really the ones to blame for the fight. Explaining the situation, the redhead says they tried to drag her into an alley yesterday, but Ryuji appeared like a hero to save her. Glaring at the Kendo captain, she asks if, after knowing this, she still thinks it's the protagonist's fault. Caught off guard, the Kendo members stammer, admitting it wasn't Ryuji who started the nonsense. Questioning her own version of events, the captain gets confused, as she was sure the blonde was the culprit. Realizing the screw-up she made, the redhead is in total shock with the revelation. Pointing her finger at Ryuji's face, she declares in the middle of the class that he is her man from now on. With a shining aura, the blonde trembles as he hears her promise to make him the happiest guy in the world. Not understanding a thing that's happening, Rika just looks on blankly in the middle of the crossfire. With the entire class gossiping about the sudden love confession, Ryuji tries to hide in his chair. Screaming in desperation, the protagonist tries to deny the situation while the redhead insists on her confession. Watching the drama from the sidelines, Yoo-sung thinks that being ambushed by a romantic confession in the middle of class is a brutally harsh cliché. Laughing at the scene, Rika is enjoying it as if she were watching her favorite TV show. With a sparkle in her eyes, the redhead exclaims that she thinks Ryuji is amazing and doesn't care about anything else. Making fun of the situation, the students in the class start placing bets on which heroine the protagonist will end up choosing. Commenting on the new suitor, a female student says the girl is sweet and has the perfect body for the position. Comparing their personalities, they say she's a beast with everyone else, but turns into a tame puppy when she's with her crush. Seeing everyone gossiping about the drama, Yoo-sung feels like the school has turned into a real madhouse. Looking to his side, he sees Ryuji being surrounded while the redhead points her finger shamelessly. Talking to Rika, he says that if she has the guts to admit what she feels in front of everyone, now is the perfect time. Asking if Rika thinks the blonde will have a romance with the redhead, the MC tries to test the waters. Joking about the situation, the blonde asks Yoo-sung who he thinks Ryuji will end up with in the end. Shrugging, he says he has no idea and Rika finds his answer boring. Knowing what happens in the manga, Yoo-sung holds himself back from revealing that he was originally supposed to end up with his childhood friend. Putting on a superior air, Rika says she knows exactly who he's going to date, leaving Yoo-sung intrigued. Revealing the plot, she says that in Scramble Love, Ryuji ends up with Tojo. With one clear condition, she demands to be Tojo's official love advisor to give her seduction tips. Doubting the blonde's ability, Yoo-sung asks if she's really that sure about what she's saying. Winking, she says that the students at school love asking her for love advice. Feeling a pang of concern, he wonders why Rika is so excited about other people's love lives. Imagining him asking for advice, Rika laughs, and he desperately tells her to stop. Red with embarrassment, he tries to dodge the subject while the blonde keeps insisting on the joke. Looking at the classroom door, he sees the redhead sitting there waiting for Ryuji with a mischievous look on her face. Asking what Tojo is doing in the middle of the classroom, Yoo-sung sees the rumors flying about their weekend date. Commenting that she wants to buy Ryuji a snack as an excuse for the date, the gossip only intensifies. Analyzing the situation, he concludes that a date like that is basically an official relationship proposal. Hearing a new rumor, he finds out that the redhead is the daughter of an important big shot in the region. Discovering that her father is the boss of a Yakuza syndicate called Daosi Kai, he gets tense. Realizing that Ryuji is involved with the criminal underworld, the situation for the protagonist has become dangerous. Shrugging, he tries to convince himself that it's not his problem, and that he's just a buff extra. Finding it bizarre, he says that even knowing this doesn't change anything about the peaceful life he's chosen. Playing with the idea of calling the guy boss, he dismisses the thought, finding the situation terrifying. On second thought, he remembers he's already inside a manga, and absurd things are totally possible. Screaming, the redhead calls Ryuji and insists on the apology meal. Letting the protagonist fend for himself, he reinforces that he's not getting involved in Yakuza drama and wants peace. Trying to cut off the insistence, the redhead asks for a moment from everyone and finally takes control of the scene. Angry at the audience, she yells that it's none of their business and that Ryuji is uncomfortable with all the noise. Watching from afar, the other students are green with envy at the protagonist's luck of being fought over. After class, the redhead continues to tail Ryuji, demanding that he accept the special apology lunch. Running through the halls, the girl finally corners the blonde before he can escape home. Shouting his name, she vows that he will eat with her this weekend, no matter what. On the verge of tears, Ryuji begs for mercy while being publicly harassed. At the family restaurant, Yusung watches the scene while eating, and Rika shows up, all cute with a tray of food. Offering the fancy lunch box, she asks what he's going to do during the Golden Week break. Answering that he'll be helping at the restaurant, he invites Rika to stop by if she has time. Excited, she asks if he likes manga, and tells him she has tons of them at her house. Taking a picture with her phone, she shows him the giant collection her father built, which looks like an entire bookstore. Impressed, he says he'd love to check it out, and they agree to talk later. Eating the snack delicately, the blonde seems satisfied with their conversation. Looking at her, the MC comments that she's too skinny for the amount of food she eats. Explaining her diet, she says that if she doesn't have a proper lunch, she ends up snacking all day. Smiling, she drops the bombshell that everything she eats goes straight to her chest, which leaves Yusung frozen. Suddenly lifting his head, he notices her cleavage and is left speechless, trying to look away. Noticing him staring, she yells, calling him a pervert, and warns him it was an obvious trap. In the crowded cafeteria, the two chat calmly, ignoring the noise from the rest of the school. Hiding in a corner, the redhead observes the two and thinks this is her chance to get help. Coming up from behind, she calls Yusung and asks if he is really Tojo Karen. Not understanding anything, the MC asks who she is, and Rika introduces the girl as the one from the Kendo club. Explaining that the redhead has love problems, she says she heard that Yusung is an expert at giving romantic advice. Red as a beet, Tojo tries to shut Rika up before everyone hears her confession. Asking if the rumor is true, the redhead desperately asks for help while Yusung wonders where they got that lie from. Questioning how they knew she was having problems, Rika explains that you just have to watch her movements in the classroom. Trying to cover Rika's mouth, the redhead nearly panics, wanting absolute silence on the matter. Seizing the opportunity, Rika says that Yusung also needed to talk to her seriously. Tojo asks for help to win over Ryuji as soon as possible. Walking down the street, our MC concludes that Kishimoto is having the time of her life. The memory of the blonde setting up a meeting for everyone the next day for a serious talk comes to mind. Frying his brain cells, he remembers that in the original story, Sakamoto was supposed to be the center of a harem with 4 girls. Standing in front of the gym, the boy decides to stop thinking about these crazy things and just focus on his own workout. Inside, the atmosphere changes as people notice the monster pumping heavy iron. Curious about the scene, 2 girls find it strange to see a certain female student there among the gym rats. Surprised by the visit, the kid turns his head and comes face to face with a familiar figure. In casual clothes, the captain of the Kendo club appears, full of charm. Without hesitation, Yusung calls Fuma Yukika by her name, confirming the girl's identity. A bit sheepishly, she explains that just her club activities weren't making her sweat enough. With a sly smile, the buff guy jokes, saying he now understands why the guys at the gym are so hyped. Faced with that scene, the MC mentally admits the captain is truly a breathtaking beauty. Striking up a conversation, he comments that he didn't know the brunette lived in the area, and she confirms her recent move. With this information in hand, the Korean finds the situation just perfect for his plans. Suddenly, the Jack gym owner appears, declaring that Yusung will be the new girl's official trainer. Giving them a little push, the old man argues that training with a schoolmate is much better than with some old guy. Leaning close to the kid's ear, the old guy gossips that the girl is only there because she's into him and wishes him good luck. Getting straight to the point, the owner tells Fuma to just observe today, while the big guy concludes the old man got it all wrong. Without wasting time, our MC adjusts his posture and grabs the barbell firmly. Ignoring common sense, the old man tells him to start light with 220 kilograms, and the brunette nearly falls over. To calm the girl down, the owner says he has 20 years of bodybuilding under his belt, but swears the kid is an unprecedented mutant. With his hands locked on the iron, Yusung tenses his brutal muscles, ready for the colossal effort. In a perfect squat, he lowers all the weight as if he were just carrying grocery bags. Hyped by how easy it was, the old man yells to increase the load to 270 kilograms, scaring the captain for good. After nailing 5 complete sets, the boy takes a deep breath while Fuma thinks this has turned into pure torture. Full of pride, the owner points to the monster he created while the swordswoman sweats bullets at the bizarre demonstration. Assessing the kid's physique, the captain declares that body definitely does not belong to a simple student. Faced with that insane purple aura, she connects the dots and discovers the buff guy's true anomaly. Absolutely certain of her intuition, she identifies it as the legendary extreme yang physique of martial arts. Remembering old tales, the girl compares the MC to the great heroes of history who were born with the strength of 100 men. Having felt the impact of his blow firsthand, the brunette knows that raw power doesn't just come from the gym. Focused on her secret duty, she decides to report this monstrous discovery to her mysterious superior. Suddenly, the scene cuts to the facade of a gigantic traditional mansion fit for the top brass. At the entrance, men in suits bow, greeting the redhead while the blonde and our MC arrive as party crashers. Intrigued by Kishimoto's calmness, the boy wonders if it's normal for high schoolers to deal with the mafia in this world. Walking past the line of mobsters, the kid mentally admits he'll never get used to the craziness of this isekai. Just laying eyes on our giant causes panic, and one of the goons nearly has a heart attack at the boy's size. Pointing a finger in his face, the Yakuza accuses the big guy of being a spy from another gang and tells the redhead to back away from the danger. Furious with the scene, Tojo curses out the goons, saying they came to help, but the mobster retorts that his face looks like a convict's, not a student's. Safely in the spacious kitchen, the redhead apologizes profusely for her bodyguard's wild behavior. Used to being judged, Yusung shrugs and says his thuggish face always causes this kind of confusion. Putting on an apron, the kid says he's useless at giving love advice, but the redhead insists that a male perspective is the key to success. With a knife in hand, Tojo asks if cooking will win Sakamoto's heart, and the blonde swears that homemade food never fails. Striking a sparkling pose, Rika demands blind trust in the unbeatable tips from the great romance expert. Watching the scene from the sidelines, the Korean feels a brutal second-hand embarrassment and wonders how she can say that without blushing. Clapping, the duo gets excited and declares the official start of the culinary challenge in the mafia's kitchen. Full of pride, the redhead holds up the shining lunchbox, showing that she's finished her first handmade dish. With sparkling eyes, she displays the meal to the blonde, who congratulates her friend on the hard-won victory. But just minutes before, the reality was quite different, with the pan on fire and the MC concluding that romance cooking is a hazard. Smelling the spices in the air, the big guy says his rumbling stomach is demanding real food. Without ceremony, he offers to take over the stove to whip up a quick dinner for the crew. With a confident smile, the kid cracks his knuckles and tells them to leave the responsibility in his hands. Immediately, the boy unleashes culinary terror on the pan, with giant flames shooting up like a true frantic master chef. At an insane pace, the buff guy sawdust the food with a skill that leaves both girls completely mesmerized. With the dish served, the fried rice shines on the table, exuding an aroma that would make anyone's mouth water. Devouring the food without a second thought, the pair of girls praises every bite, amazed by the perfect flavor. Curious about his talent, Rika asks how long he's been manning the stove like that, and the kid calculates it's been since his first year of high school. Recalling his old body's past, he tells them his mom used to wake up in the middle of the night to make his lunchbox. Touched by the story, the blonde nearly cries upon hearing that he learned to cook to spare his hardworking mother the exhaustion. Changing the subject, Rika asks who makes Tojo's lunch, and the redhead shatters the mature mood by saying her dear mommy makes it with lots of love. In a flash, the blonde remembers the main reason for their visit and says she brought a special surprise. Handing over a fancy gift box, she reveals she went to the store to buy all the necessary makeup arsenal. Full of affection, Rika explains that she wrote down the skincare routine on a small piece of paper so the redhead wouldn't get lost in the creams. Planning the next step, the expert declares that after makeup, they'll go out to buy new clothes together. Sizing up her friend, Rika gives it to her straight, saying that Tojo's school style needs an urgent rescue. Without any mercy, she accuses the redhead of dressing like an old man in a tracksuit, and Yusung holds back a laugh at her frankness. Her pride wounded, the girl clenches her fists, promising to work hard on her makeup to secure the date no matter what. Celebrating her determination, Kishimoto announces that the beauty salon is now open and tells the boy to wait right there. Annoyed at being excluded, the MC questions if he's just going to be left behind, and the blonde retorts that spying on a girl's transformation is a heinous crime. Pulling her friend by the hand, Rika disappears down the hall, full of energy to perform a fashion miracle away from the men. Left in the living room, the buff guy looks dumbfounded, grumbling that they were the ones who said his opinion was crucial. Later that night, walking back down the street, the boy admits to the blonde that the outing ended up being a lot of fun. Under the lamplight, he confesses from the heart that he's rooting for the redhead to get her long-awaited romantic date. Changing course, the kid suggests a quick stop at the convenience store to buy the weekly manga magazine. Standing in front of the shelf, Rika repeats her father's phrase, stating that people who like comics are never bad people. Getting straight to the point, the blonde asks if he usually buys the manga religiously every week. Observing his reaction, Rika concludes in her mind that the Korean is undoubtedly a good guy. With a sincere smile, she says that anyone who tries so hard to help another person has a heart of gold. The girl fixes her gaze on him, stating with absolute certainty that he is a good person. Suddenly, the girl panics about the time and runs off to pay for the magazine and leave. Left in the middle of the store, the kid tries to understand her escape, and ironically concludes she must have had a stomach ache. The next day, the sun shines on the school, bringing new gossip through the hallways. In the corners, the guys start whispering in awe of a new presence in the area. Several background characters drool over the newcomer, praising the absurd cuteness of the girl who just arrived. Walking with style, a completely revamped Tujo Karen strides firmly toward the classroom. Without any mercy, she slaps her hand on the protagonist's desk, handing him a mysterious envelope. With a tough girl pose, she informs Sakamoto that it's a letter of challenge and demands his presence over the weekend. Completely shocked by the redhead's beauty, the blonde stammers, not even recognizing his own classmate. Cutting the scene, the weekend finally arrives with the bustling movement of the Shibuya district. Meeting up with the group, the MC praises the redhead's courage, saying the challenge letter scene was incredibly epic. Joking about the situation, the big guy asks if he can call the mob girl, Karen-chan, leaving her blushing. Inside the women's clothing section, the kid feels like he stepped onto a bizarre alien planet. Being dragged by the blonde, he remembers that Tojo asked for help but grumbles that he was brought here by force. Looking at the racks, Rika finds a super cute outfit and grabs the piece right away. Pushing the redhead by the arm, the fashion expert tells the Guinea pig to try on the look quickly. In a shopping frenzy, the pair bombards poor Karen with different clothing options without stopping. Giving her no chance to escape, the blonde shoves her friend into the fitting room with a pile of hangers. Trying to escape the humiliation, the redhead yells that cute clothes don't match her face. Losing her patience, Rika barges into the fitting room with her and tells the entire mafia to shut up while she works her magic. Outside, the MC hears some suspicious noises and the redhead complaining about being touched in sensitive places, leaving him shocked. Opening the curtain, Tojo comes out trembling with embarrassment while trying to pull down the hem of her new outfit. Complaining nonstop, the girl swears the skirt is too short to wear in public. Demanding a male opinion, Rika asks the big guy, and he gives it to her straight, saying the look is perfect on her. Super flushed, the redhead looks at herself in the mirror and finally understands the transformative power of a good wardrobe. Soon after, the scene abruptly changes back to the gloomy mansion of the Yakuza family. In the middle of a tense meeting, the top brass of the mafia discusses a matter of extreme importance. Sitting at the head of the table, the boss, Tojo Naoto, glares at his henchman with an unfriendly face. Known in the underworld as Bloodbath, the redhead's father decrees that his daughter has news. Stabbing a sharp knife into the wooden table, the old man announces that his heiress has finally found a boy. Immediately, the entire room is in shock, questioning what fool would have the guts to get close to the Yakuza princess. Huffing with jealousy, the boss swears he won't just hand his daughter over to any random Joe on the street. Demanding information, Naoto wants to know the unfortunate guy's name, and the henchman confirms the target is named Sakamoto. Analyzing the blonde kid's photo, the boss discovers he studies at the same elite school as Karen. Showing off his work, the right-hand man says he escorted the young mistress to the beauty salon the day before. Pulling out his phone, the mobster displays the maxed-out credit card bill with purchases from women's clothing stores. Putting the evidence together, the jealous father concludes that his daughter is planning a romantic date for the weekend. Exploding with rage, the old man screams Sakamoto's name, wrecking his own office while the henchman tries to calm the beast. Without a second thought, the leader summons all gang members who are off duty over the weekend. Yanking the knife from the table, Naoto decrees that the mafia's official mission is to spy on the date and prevent any funny business from the blonde kid. Shouting in unison, the high-ranking executives accept the order, and the bizarre operation begins immediately. The trio of friends stops at a diner to recharge after their shopping trip. Slumped in her chair, Rika sighs, completely exhausted, in front of a mountain of burgers and fries. Complaining of fatigue, the blonde can barely chew while the MC devours his meal in total peace. Full of gratitude, the raid head thanks Rika for her help, who retorts that's what friendship is for. Wiping her mouth, the blonde says she loved the shopping trip, and Tojo agrees, totally happy with the result. Worried about the giant's hunger, the mob girl offers to pay for more burgers, but he refuses, preferring dishes with rice. Insisting on the kindness, Karen tells him to let her know if he gets hungry, assuring him the bill is on the Yakuza. Staring at the girl, the kid reflects that underneath her gangster persona, she's a super considerate person. Noticing him staring, the raid head blushes and asks if she has some sauce on her face. With a little laugh, the boy jokes about the situation and quickly changes the subject, asking for the next day's date itinerary. Showing her basic plan, Karen dictates that the routine will be coffee, a movie, and a normal little dinner. Slamming her hand on the table, Rika lets out a yell, calling her friend's idea too naive and scaring the other customers. Posing like a love guru, the blonde warns that doing the same old cliché won't win anyone's heart. Pulling her phone from her pocket, the expert shows the screen, suggesting an amazing visit to the city's aquarium. Hyping up the place, Rika talks about romantic blue lights and fish dancing in the water to create the perfect mood. Describing the perfect scene, the expert claims that whispering in the dark of the aquarium is a surefire way to spark romance. Buying the idea instantly, the redhead vows to follow the plan while the MC rolls his eyes at the blonde's crazy schemes. Out on the street under the evening sky, the kid says his goodbyes, wishing her good luck on the next day's mission. Waving their hands, the pair separates from the redhead, letting the girl go home peacefully. Suddenly, Rika pounces and grabs the buff guy's arm, preventing his escape. Full of ulterior motives, she asks about the kid's plans for Saturday, and he says he's going to be rotting away reading manga. Not accepting the excuse, the blonde summons the MC to spy on Tojo's date, but he tries to refuse to save his own day off. Appealing to his emotions, she makes a puppy dog face, saying they need to ensure their friend's happiness, and the giant ends up giving in to the blackmail. Celebrating her victory, Rika gives him a high five, declaring that the official spy duo has been formed. On the day of the date, the city turns into a disguised chaos, with a little girl pointing at a very suspicious old guy in sunglasses. On the streets, the Yakuza mobsters hide in trench coats, setting up a heavy watch on the romantic date spot. Arriving in the area, the blonde Sakamoto shows up looking clueless, asking if the girl waited long. Flashing a heart, melting smile, the revamped redhead assures him she just got to the meeting point. Red as a tomato, the protagonist compliments her cute outfit, creating a super sweet atmosphere between the two. Together, the lovebirds begin their first date, completely oblivious to the number of weirdos spying on their every move. Agreeing with the idea, the lovebirds decide to have tea first to plan their day. Very sneakily, the amateur spy duo starts following the couple down the street. Confident in his disguise, the kid thinks the plan is perfect, while the blonde is glowing with excitement. Overly excited, the romance expert runs ahead, leaving the buff guy behind. At the door of the famous coffee shop, the blonde comments on the place's immense popularity. Drooling with rage, the redhead's father smashes the wall in anger upon seeing his unwanted son-in-law up close. Outraged, the boss yells that it's absurd the kid made his princess wait for 5 minutes. Trying to calm the beast, the henchman warns that the scene is attracting everyone's attention on the street. 9 mobsters packed into the same spot, the Four Eyes suggests splitting the team into pairs to blend in. Taking the sensible idea, the leader tells everyone to spread out and follow the target without raising suspicion. Inside the establishment, the atmosphere seems calm and perfect for a first date. Suddenly, a gigantic family-sized ice cream sundae is placed in the middle of the table. Amazed by the dessert, the raidhead thinks it's beautiful, but Sakamoto doubts she can finish it all. Hiding at the next table, Rika quietly judges the protagonist, calling him a wimp for not being able to handle the challenge. At that same moment, the entire mafia also occupies the tables in the place, and the boss senses a strange presence. In the midst of the crowd, Yusong's disguise doesn't stop the men in suits from slowly approaching. Feeling the murderous aura on his back, the MC instantly deduces that these weird guys are from the redhead's family. Casting a deathly glare, the Yakuza leader skewers the hooded big guy with his eyes. Even with the bizarre disguise, the old man notices the similarity and recognizes the boy's physical build. Ignoring the mafia pressure, the Korean focuses on the mission upon hearing that the couple is going to see the dolphins. To follow the script, the lovebirds decide to head to the city's aquarium immediately. With a contagious smile, the mob girl shows she's loving every second of the date. On the other side of the table, Yusung warns his partner that the chase is going to be much more intense than she imagines. Arriving at the subway station, the audible warning alerts that the train doors are about to close. In a desperate leap, the spy couple barges into the car just as the doors are closing. Crushed by the crowd, the blonde screams, telling people to stop pushing her. Pressed against her, the buff guy asks for patience while the girl freaks out about being squished against his chest. Suddenly, the big guy notices some weird movement in the middle of the crush. He quickly uses his own giant body as a shield to prevent the blonde from being squashed by the crowd. As soon as the doors open, the herd of passengers rushes out, pushing everyone at once. Afraid of losing the target, the MC grabs the blonde's hand in the middle of the absolute chaos. Pulling the girl with force, he runs, clearing a path through the station's crowd. Outside, the duo finally breathes a sigh of relief after surviving the train crush. Red with embarrassment, the romance expert sheepishly asks for her hand back. Awkward with the situation, the kid immediately lets go of her fingers, apologizing. She grumbles, asking him to be more gentle next time. Confused by the phrase, the Korean mentally wonders where she got the idea there would be a next time. To make matters worse, the light turns red, and the spy duo loses sight of the lovebirds at the crosswalk. Keeping his cool, the big guy remembers the final destination is the Aquarium and suggests they go straight there. Stuck in the pedestrian traffic jam, the Yakuza men in suits curse the city's absurd crowds. Annoyed, one henchman laments not taking the car, while the other remembers that weekends are always this hellish. Hidden by his hood, Yusung spots the mobsters and confirms they're the same guys from the mansion. To avoid unnecessary bloodshed, the kid quietly sneaks away from their line of sight. At that exact moment, the Four Eyes points his finger and alerts the boss about the suspicious hooded guy. Racking his brain, the leader recognizes his daughter's friend, who helped with the date preparations days ago. Analyzing the boy's physique, the boss admits the kid has all the makings of a hired assassin. Since they lost sight of the redhead, the old man orders the gang to follow the amateur spies as a plan B. With firm steps on the pavement, the entire mafia marches together, tailing Yusung and Rika. At the main entrance of the aquarium, the protagonist couple finally arrives at their planned destination. Super excited, the mob girl pulls the blonde into the building, all smiles. Suddenly, the bully from the Kendo club with a bandage on his nose appears on the scene, thirsty for revenge. Focusing his vision, the troublemaker recognizes Sakamoto walking calmly with the girl, arm in arm. Full of venom, the bully's friend points out the target, blaming the blonde for their summary expulsion from the club. Shaking with rage, the delinquent vows to finish off the protagonist right then and there. Oblivious to the imminent danger, the blonde and the MC continue their discreet spying near the giant aquariums. Due to the location's bluish, dark lighting, visibility is quite tricky for the espionage team. Despite the darkness, the Korean notices a very important detail in the lovebirds' mood. To everyone's surprise, the date is going wonderfully well, and the redhead can't stop laughing. Faced with the undeniable romantic success, the big guy questions the blonde if they really need to keep spying. Changing scenery, the camera cuts to the park, where the couple is already spreading out a blanket for a nice picnic. Opening his own giant lunchbox, Yusung reveals a jaw-dropping feast of kimbap and sushi. Shocked by the feast, Rika drools over the food while he explains he prepared it all so they could handle the strain of spying. Without ceremony, the blonde attacks the food, praising the buff guy's perfect seasoning. Main couple talks about how the aquarium trip was amazing and full of beautiful fish. Sweating bullets, the redhead completely freezes when it's time to offer the special lunch she prepared herself. With binoculars in hand, the MC notices her nervousness, as it's the first time the girl has cooked for her crush. The memory of the mob girl asking for tips on an app and practicing the recipe day and night comes to mind. Impressed by the lunchbox, the blonde's eyes widen as he asks if she made it all herself. Red with embarrassment, she confirms and tells the boy to eat as much as he wants because there's plenty of food. The exact moment Sakamoto bites into the rice ball, Karen holds her breath in pure tension. Suddenly, the blonde's face lights up, and he yells that the food is delicious, relieving the girl's heart. Excited by the compliment, the redhead spears another piece and puts it directly into the boy's mouth with her own hands. Completely flustered, the protagonist chews the snack, accepting the food in his mouth like a child. Smiling at her, the blonde assures her that this second piece is also incredibly perfect. Full of joy, the mob girl smiles relieved, confirming that all her effort in the kitchen was truly worth it. Taking advantage of the mood, the redhead tells the blonde to try everything and offers him a rice ball with affection. Taking a good bite, Sakamoto approves of the food on the spot, and a smile spreads across his face. Confirming that the lunchbox is sensational, the boy leaves the mob girl with a warm heart. Full of relief, the redhead clasps her hands, blushing, and thinks that her effort finally paid off. Hiding in the bush, Rika celebrates, saying the couple seems to be doing super well on their date. Agreeing with the blonde, the giant kid finds it too strange that the plan worked out without any problems so far. Frying his brain cells, Yusong accuses the romance expert of never having actually dated and only knowing things from reading manga. Laughing in his face, Rika bluntly admits her lack of experience but swears she's helped many couples get together at school. Putting his pride aside, the buff guy sighs, seeing the lovebirds packing up their blanket to leave, and decides to follow them. Deaf to his doubts, the blonde insists she's an excellent counselor, completely ignoring her partner's concern. Walking peacefully through the park, the atmosphere between Sakamoto and the redhead reaches its peak cuteness level. Behind the tree, Rika suggests the atmosphere is perfect for a spontaneous love confession. Suddenly, a loud sound of a fight cuts through the silence and startles the two spies nearby. Looking to the side, Yusong and Rika freeze upon seeing a group of delinquents surrounding the lovebirds in the middle of the park. With a sadistic smile, the gang leader celebrates, saying he's been looking for the pair of losers all over the park. With heavy taunts, the bully accuses Sakamoto of being a player who stole their girl the other day. Worried, Rika asks if it's not better to call the police, and Yusong warns it will take too long. Not backing down, Sakamoto recognizes the brutes from the Kendo club, and the guys mock him, demanding revenge. Sweating bullets, the redhead remembers the panic she felt in the alley, and the courage of the blonde who saved her from those thugs. Shaking, the girl recalls how the two cowards badly beaten by the protagonist in an unfair 2-on-1 fight. Complaining of pain, the Kendo troublemaker cries, saying he was expelled from the club and lost his chance to see Captain Fuma every day. Exploding with rage, Toja screams, cursing the pair of idiots for ruining her special day. Pointing her finger at the delinquents, the mob girl tells that their attitude is exactly why they were banned. Shocked by her makeup, the troublemakers take a moment to recognize senior Tojo, who used to dress like a boy. Laughing at her transformation, the bandaged jerk mocks her cute outfit and accuses Sakamoto of being a two-faced loser. Looking down on the couple, the thug points at the blonde, saying the two don't match at all and that he only likes to fight. Furious, Sakamoto tells the delinquent to shut up and swears that Tojo is not the kind of girl to be insulted like that. Finding the protagonist's swagger amusing, the delinquents mock him, asking if he really thinks they came alone today. Yelling for backup, the Kendo jerk calls for his big brother to join the fray. Stomping heavily, a muscular blonde appears with a mean look, asking who had the audacity to hit his boys. Sucking up to the boss, the guys introduce Hayashi as the true legend of the Kitayama streets. Desperate, Sakamoto tells the raidhead to run, warning that the guy's real target is just him. With a malevolent smile, the big blonde tells the protagonist to stop playing around, that the fight is serious now. In a quick move, the criminal leader grabs Karen's wrist forcefully, startling the girl. Pulling the mob girl, Hayashi drops the line that she should ditch the loser there and go have fun with him. Screaming her name, the blonde tries to intervene but is blocked by the cowardly goons. With a brutal shove, Sakamoto flies backward while telling the gang to get lost immediately. Tired of just watching, Yusong mutters and tells Rika to stay put right where she is. Trying to break free, Tojo screams desperately for the protagonist amidst the chaos and confusion of the park. Suddenly, a blur crosses the scene, breaking up the gang's fun in less than a second. Full of himself, the blonde leader was about to make another snide remark to the redhead when a colossal hand grabs his arm from behind. Not understanding where the pressure came from, Hayashi gulps, feeling the weight of that firm grip. In a violent twist, the MC squeezes the thug's wrist with absurd force, drawing a shrill scream of pain from him. The impact throws the brute to the ground like a ragdoll, scaring the rest of the gang. Staring with a murderous gaze, the giant kid decrees in a deep voice that he doesn't like to repeat himself and tells him to take his hands off his friend. The goons scream, asking what hole that Korean wardrobe crawled out of to take down their boss. Drooling with pain and hatred, Hayashi curses the MC, accusing the boy of fighting dirty by attacking from behind. Sweating bullets, the thug assesses his swollen arm, wondering what kind of crazy training that giant monster does in secret. Deep down, the delinquent knows it wasn't a surprise attack, but the absurd difference in strength between a tough civilian and a true mutant. Watching the drama from the sidelines, the Yakuza's 4 eyes questions if the boss is going to step into the mess. Rewinding a bit, the mafia team was running through the park in desperation after losing sight of the daughter. Spotting the fight from a distance, the advisor points, and the leader recognizes the redhead being pulled by the troublemakers. Annoyed, the mob girl was trying to break free from the blonde bum's grip while the boss was seething with rage. Enraged, Nato nearly pulls out his gun to shoot the thug who dared to lay a finger on his princess. Preparing the heavy artillery, the gang was about to act, but the leader tells everyone to stop and hold their horses. Keeping his cool, the old man says the Yakuza doesn't need to get involved in childish high school squabbles. With a fixed gaze, the boss points to the giant hooded boy, telling the gang to pay close attention to his aura. Feeling a suffocating pressure in the air, the leader trembles slightly, realizing the kid's strength is otherworldly. Smiling tensely, the old mobster confesses he's felt that exact same terrifying energy in the past. Memories of Russia flood the boss's mind, bringing back the sinister image of Ivan the Destroyer, the boss of the Red Mafia. Recalling the face-to-face encounter with the Russian monster in Japan, Naoto confesses the absolute terror he felt that day. Sizing up the kid, the mobster swears the Korean carries the same essence of an underworld predator. Fascinated, the old man wonders how a common student named Kim Yu-sung can emanate the same pure darkness as a crime lord. Back to the fight, our MC takes a deep breath, throws the original manga plot out the window, and takes control. With a black aura rising from his body, Yu-sung informs the gang that he's now going to take out the trash with pure brute force. In a protective instinct, he tells Tojo to grab Sakamoto and get out of there to avoid getting hurt in the crossfire. Worried about the big guy, the mob girl hesitates, but he firmly assures her that he won't lose to a bunch of nobodies. Annoyed by his audacity, the blonde boss yells, cursing the MC, and tries to land a violent punch demanding respect. At a sickening speed, the thug's fists fly through the air, creating motion blurs from how fast they are. Celebrating the attack, the goon shouts with joy, thinking the leader's incredible speed will crush the Korean. Dripping with confidence, Hayashi smiles, thinking the punch can't even be dodged because of its speed. Without flinching, Yu-sung takes the impact head-on but doesn't move a single centimeter, as if he were a concrete statue. Frustrated by the absurd defense, the blonde curses and prepares his next blow, trying to break the big guy's wall. Throwing another brutal punch, the delinquent aims for a different spot, only for the punch to bounce off the kid's bizarre muscle mass again. Hiding in the back, the blonde trembles, watching the fight as the Korean monster absorbs the blows without a single groan of pain. Ignoring the beatdown, Tojo calls the big guy's name, super worried about her friend in the middle of the brawl. Covering his shattered arm, the bum retreats, shaking, and mutters, not understanding Yu-sung's impenetrable defense. Full of dark aura, our MC glares at the bum leader and declares that from now on, any punch counts as self-defense. Before the thug can understand the phrase, the air around the Korean distorts with the pressure of the imminent attack. In an explosion that sounds like an atomic bomb, the kid's fist deforms the mobster's face with colossal force. The punch is so massive it breaks teeth and deforms the bum's jaw, proving he used way more than normal high school strength. Flying like a piece of paper, the blonde spins in the air, falling flat on the ground from the force of the blow. Watching the nightmare, the gang panics while the kid coldly explains that he was forced to end it in one blow to avoid it becoming a murder. Shaking in their boots, the thugs look at their downed leader and whisper in shock that the punch was anything but weak. Seething with rage, the big guy spreads his insane purple aura and warns the worms that they made the mistake of touching his friends. Whimpering on the ground, a goon tries to threaten him, saying his dad is a big shot cop and that the big guy is going to jail. Without giving him time for nonsense, the Korean stomps hard on the ground, smashing the cocky kid's face into the concrete. In a frenetic combo, a rain of punches destroys what's left of the entire gang at once and without mercy. Dumped on the park ground like trash bags, the bullies groan in pain, begging for mercy after the beating. Cold as ice, the MC shakes his bloody fist, tells the rest of the troublemakers to get lost and never show their faces in front of Sakamoto again. Afraid of dying right there, the last of the thugs scream in agreement and disappear, running for their lives. Sighing deeply, Yu-sung turns to the couple with a bruised face, but the lovebirds just freeze, staring at the big guy like that. Not caring about his own cut-up face, the kid turns his back, apologizes, and tells them to enjoy the rest of their date. Just then, the blonde appears, screaming furiously and cursing out the MC for sneaking off instead of going to a pharmacy to treat his injuries. Waving his hands, the boy tries to calm the beast, confessing it's the first time he's ever seen Rika so angry about anything. After the drama fades into the distance, the park falls silent and a super heavy mood falls over Tojo and Sakamoto. Trying to break the ice, the blonde sits on a bench and lets out a sigh, catching the sad mob girl's attention. Full of guilt, the redhead apologizes, stating that all this violent mess only happened because of her. Shaking his head, the protagonist swears it wasn't her fault and that the Kendo fight started because the guys came after him. Taking a breath, Sakamoto freezes and stares at the horizon, mustering the courage to speak his mind to Tojo. Focusing on the redhead's face, the blonde smiles and bluntly confesses that he really likes the mob girl. Cutting the romantic mood, the protagonist's expression suddenly changes and he apologizes. Straight to the point, he begs Tojo to forget the idea of a date or any possible romance between them. Feeling her chest tighten, the redhead stammers, asking for a reason, and declares with absolute certainty that she just wanted to go out with him. Averting his gaze, super embarrassed, Sakamoto sweats bullets, admitting his own selfishness and the weight of the truth stuck in his throat. On the verge of tears, Tojo feels the stab in her chest and already sees the rejection coming. Desperately, she tries to force the issue, promising to change anything if he didn't like her date. Taking the hit, the blonde insists she's too amazing and that the real flaw lies in his own stupid circumstances. Lowering his head, the protagonist reveals the childhood promise where he swore to marry a little girl from his past. Firm in his silly decision, he declares he won't date anyone until he bumps into that promise girl again. Shaken, the mob girl blinks, confused, asking if he's still so attached to a childhood romance after all this time. Being honest, Sakamoto admits he barely remembers the whole thing, but confesses he really liked the girl from his childhood. Confirming the cliché, the redhead sighs, accepting that the so-called childhood friend was her crush's true first love. Swallowing her tears, Tojo promises not to insist and takes the rejection well, trying to seem mature in the situation. Forcing a huge smile, the girl hides her pain, praising the outing and swearing that today was a very fun day. A bit awkward with her quick escape, the blonde gives a weak smile as he responds to her goodbye and watches her turn her back. The quickening her pace, the redhead flees through the park, feeling her heart break as she tries to hold it together until she's alone. From a distance, Yusung watches from the sidelines, not knowing how to react to the drama, and suggests Rika leave first. Confused, the blonde finds it strange that her partner is ditching her there and wants to go with him. But he refuses. Blowing a farewell kiss, Rika says she'll see him next week as the afternoon starts to fade. Sakamoto seems upset. The kid runs after the redhead, not understanding the abrupt change in energy. Following from a distance, the MC notices Tojo's desperate steps as she runs through the park like a madwoman. Catching up to the girl in a dark alley, the Korean calls her name to find out what the heck went wrong. Turning her back with red eyes and tears streaming down her face, Karen uselessly tries to pretend her world hasn't just collapsed. Rolling his eyes, he replies that clearly nothing is okay, and she finally gives in, sitting on the ground to cry in peace. Kneeling beside her, Yusung tries to be understanding and suggests the girl let it all out to release the pent-up sadness. Shaking with anger, the redhead grumbles about the humiliation, confessing she's never shown so much weakness around anyone in her life. Staring at the ground, the big guy sighs and says that's what friends are for as the girl calms down. Breaking the ice, the mob girl suddenly blurts out that she figured out he and Rika were spying since the middle of the outing. Sweating bullets at being caught in their amateur disguise, the kid panics, wondering how an extra managed to get noticed in a nonsensical manga cliché. Not caring about the embarrassment, the redhead comments that if the duo was paranoid enough to follow her like that, it's because they didn't have much faith in the plan working out. Wiping her eyes, the mob girl apologizes for being useless and whines that she thought the cute dress would solve all her problems. Feeling guilty, she admits defeat, declaring there was no space for her in the blonde's heart, and forcing the issue only made things worse. Clutching her chest in pain, the girl confesses that the feeling of rejection is driving her crazy. Sitting in silence listening to the heavy venting, Yusung reflects on it being the first time he's seen real pain on someone's face in this bizarre isekai. Screaming from the bottom of her soul, the girl cries and admits she was completely crazy in love with the blonde protagonist. Gulping, the big guy reflects on how absurd the whole situation was in his head. He remembers when he first met Rika and the forced smile he always gave, feigning polite friendship. With remorse, he accepts that deep down he still saw everyone as mere drawings and treated their lives like a little play for him to watch. Frying his brain cells, the MC questions if it's fair to treat Tojo's brutal real pain as just some irrelevant drama from a comic book. Making the decision to flip the switch, he abruptly gets up from the grass, extends a hand, and tells the mob girl to get off the ground. Without beating around the bush, he jokes with her, saying that if she keeps crying on the street, they'll call the cops for disturbing the peace. Finding the idiocy funny amidst her tears, Karen tries to wipe her face and gives a sweet, sincere smile back. Looking at her, the MC tells it like it is, confessing that the light-hearted, jiggly redhead fits her tough, girl style much better. Suddenly, he yanks off his blood-stained hoodie, throws it aside, and says the sadness ends right there. Confused by his sick attitude, she stares at the big guy as he hands her his own tracksuit jacket to put on. Taking the girl by surprise, he bluntly announces that the plan now is to cure her heartbreak by singing karaoke for the rest of the night. Tossing the new hoodie over the mob girl's head, he decrees that she's going to scream into the microphone until she forgets the jerk and purges the pain for good. Laughing, the girl finds the consolation totally absurd and follows the Korean, laughing at the madness her life has become. Looking at the giant jacket falling over her body, Karen whispers to herself that the idea is the most random and stupid thing in the world, and lets out another hearty laugh. Staring at the scene, the Korean realizes that in the end, they are just normal people dealing with normal people problems. Seeing the redhead smile, he concludes for good that these people have feelings and aren't just NPCs in a game. Away from the street, the Yakuza boss drinks and comments that the boy has a heart of gold and is happy for his daughter. Surviving in a dangerous world like that, the old mobster swears that kids like the big guy are a rare gem. Nodding, the henchman agrees that the monster of strength is also a good-natured boy. Yusung mentally hopes to bump into the mafia again in the future and gives a sincere smile. At the karaoke, Tojo shows no mercy to her vocal cords and belts it out, screaming like a madwoman into the microphone. Yelling in his ear, the redhead summons the boy to get up from his chair and take on the next song at full volume. Days later, Rika finally visits the buff guy's house and is shocked by the room crammed with gym equipment. Looking dumbfounded, the blonde asks if every boy has a bodybuilding studio in their room, and he replies that obviously not. Looking at the floor, the girl notices 2 gigantic dumbbells lying on the rug. Clueless about the gravity of the situation, she tries to lift the weight and can't move the bar even a tiny millimeter. Mocking her attempt, the MC warns that the weights are equivalent to half the girl's entire body weight, and that she'll never lift it. Trying to understand the absurd situation, he remembers they were just walking together after school normally. But halfway through, the romance expert's stomach rumbled so loudly you could hear it from across the street. Surprised by the rumble, the MC asks if she's hungry again since she had a big lunch. Leaping with joy, the blonde instantly remembers that the kid's parents own a fancy restaurant nearby. Sighing, he agrees that offering a quick dinner to a friend won't hurt the family budget. The scene changes to the humble but super cozy restaurant of the Korean's family in a quiet neighborhood. Sitting at the table, Rika shows no mercy to her stomach and starts devouring every plate of food Yusung places in front of her. Taking a big swig of her Coke, the blonde feels relief wash over her after scraping all the plates clean. Rifulka praises the kid's mom's cooking, who is absolutely smitten seeing the girl eat so well. Hitting it off with the older woman, the blonde even asks for more, and his mom rushes to the stove, happy as can be to have a visitor. Sipping his tea, the MC reflects that the girl really knows her food because she praised the traditional dish perfectly and won over his mother. Shouting with excitement, the girl thanks them for the food and immediately pulls the big guy, announcing that their next stop is his room. In shock and red as a beet, the Korean yells, asking why on earth she wants to invade his personal space. Winking like she's up to no good, she announces she's going to snoop around her friend's room just to get to know his secrets better. Back in the present, the kid hands her a tray of juice, feeling like the biggest idiot for not having refused the crazy girl's request. Tired of trying to understand female logic, he just offers the drink while the blonde is already sitting in his swivel chair. Flipping through the magazines, she finds it strange that he has a giant pile of sappy romance manga in the corner of his room. To hide his embarrassment, the MC feigns surprise, saying he didn't know she liked action shounen. Misdirecting the blonde, the big guy swears he only bought the romance manga for reference and not because he likes the cliché story. Suddenly, Rika's eyes light up when she finds an old edition of Golden Samurai on the shelf. Excited, Yusun confirms that the old masterpiece is, without a doubt, his all-time favorite manga. The drooling over the covers, the girl is amazed that they are all super rare first editions, hard to find on the street. Admiring the cover, he sings its praises, saying the manga has spectacular art and a fantastic plot from start to finish. Confirming his praise, Rika agrees that the character development was ahead of its time. Babbling on, the big guy mentions the story's plot twists, almost drooling, until he notices the girl's strange, sly smile. Dropping the bomb, Rika lets out a huge smile, announcing that her father is none other than the genius mangaka who created Golden Samurai. Shocked and with his mind blown, the MC stammers, trying to process that the girl he puts up with every day is the daughter of the living legend of manga, yelling the name Kishimoto Musashi. The kid finally connects the dots and realizes the last name wasn't just some cheap coincidence. Frying his brain cells, he deduces that her foreign features and blonde hair come from her British mother, whom the entire internet has already gossiped about. Ticked off, Yusung feels like an idiot for falling for the classic cliché of a friend having a famous dad that he never noticed. Racking his brain, he remembers that on the day of the date, he went to her mansion, and the living legend was there, hidden the whole time, and he didn't ask for a single autograph. Without a second thought, the fanboy screams and begs the blonde to score an autograph from her dad during the Golden Week holiday. Crying rivers of happy tears, the big guy begs to meet the legend, and the blonde promises to arrange the perfect meeting. Enjoying the vibe, the girl asks which part of the Golden Samurai story he likes the most. With his head in the clouds, the Korean reflects that he loves all of the author's works, but that one holds a special place in his heart. Smiling, he says the work goes beyond anything else and gets a bit shy about proactively explaining the details. Suddenly, She gets real and brings up the fight in the park, connecting her friend's actions with key moments of the classic manga's protagonist. Enchanted, Rika comments that the boy's actions directly reminded her of the samurai hero from Volume 5. In a flash of memory, the classic scene where the hero threatens anyone who touches a single hair on his partner's head comes to the girl's mind. With sparkling eyes, the romance expert declares that brute force combined with the blind protection of his friends is the best trait of both of them. Hugging the rare manga against her chest, the blonde closes her eyes, smiling, and is thankful to have a protector just like her paper idol. Cutting to Monday at school, life returns to normal in the super crowded classrooms. Called to the student council room, Yusung is handed a chore to deal with right during the long Golden Week holiday. President Fuma Yukika calls in his promise of help, and the boy agrees to follow the order with complete calmness. Explaining the drama, the brunette says she needs a backup security guard to scare off a bizarre teacher from a Russian school who's coming for a school exchange. Planning to buy the exchange program's welcome gift, the president decrees that the kid will have to go out with her to carry the bags. With a threatening and arrogant look, the captain summons the Korean for the mission and warns that she won't take no for an answer. With no way out, Yusung suggests scheduling it for April 29th and checks his phone to confirm the date with Rika too. Excited by the quick response, the president celebrates and warns that if he bails on the commitment, she'll slice his throat. Released from the room, the MC breathes a sigh of relief for surviving Fuma's murderous aura, while another member notes that she woke up in a strangely good mood today. Sighing heavily, Yusung devises a plan to reschedule the meeting with the legendary mangaka for the 30th, so he can manage both appointments. In the hallway, a background character friend stops the Korean, spreading the hot morning gossip that just made the rounds in the principal's office. Excited, the gossiper recalls the arrogant freshman duo who picked fights with everyone and got kicked out of Kendo weeks ago. Dropping the shocking news, the guy says that the two bullies suddenly requested a school transfer this morning, scared to death. With a small smirk, Yusung figures out that the violent beating the kids took in the park was the reason for their unexpected escape. Sitting at his desk, the MC is grateful for the deliverance because now Sakamoto and the redhead will have real peace in the halls. Just then, the classroom door swings open abruptly, and a velvety female voice apologizes for being late, right on a Monday morning. All smiles, the English teacher tells everyone to open their books to kick off the week of classes with a bang. Writing on the board, the beautiful blonde draws sighs while the boy in the front desk tries not to drool in class. Paying attention to the reading, Yusung notices Rika chatting casually with the teacher while taking notes from the board. Enchanted, teacher Mizuki Nene flashes a radiant smile, asking for the participation of a randomly chosen student for the day. Playing with the dates, she picks student number 24 to read aloud, scaring the poor background student who nearly has a heart attack in the middle of the class. Shaking, the nerdy student stands up and starts reading the English book, stuttering horribly in front of the entire class. Without pity for the poor guy, the teacher cuts off the reading and tells Yusung to introduce himself to the new exchange students. All friendly, she asks him to recommend a place in Japan for a foreigner who just set foot in the country. Getting up from his chair, Yusung bluntly replies that he recommends the city of Osaka because of its cool tourist spots. Surprised by the quick answer, the teacher freezes and just stares dumbfounded at the big guy. With forced clapping, she praises the answer, but everyone in the class can tell she hated the comment. Whispering to Rika, Yusung comments that the teacher clearly hated his tourist recommendation. With a strained smile, the teacher tells the big guy to sit down, while the whole class notices the strange atmosphere in the air. Sweating bullets, the teacher thinks about the real meaning of that innocent question and panics internally. Figuring it all out instantly, Yusung confirms to himself that his theory about the new teacher was spot on. Recalling the original manga, the Korean knows very well that this sweet-looking teacher is actually a sadistic psychopath who loves to mess with students on purpose. Fearing his own reputation, the MC thinks about the absurd rumors circulating about him at school since day one. With people whispering that he's a Yakuza hare who massacred an entire gang by himself, Yusung understands why the teacher was shaking. Determined to clear his name, the kid vows to behave like a perfect angel in his interview with the teacher to undo his thug reputation. Faced with reality, the teacher reviews the monster's file and can't believe that a walking wardrobe of muscles is a normal student. Reading the rumors, the teacher is shocked, thinking he's the next organized crime boss planning to kill her in cold blood. Suddenly, the door to the teacher's lounge flies open, interrupting her paranoid thoughts. With a sinister smile on his face, Yusung enters the room, says good afternoon, and the teacher nearly has a heart attack from the shock. Stuttering like crazy, the blonde tries to hide her panic, denying that she was looking up the student's criminal record. Noticing the teacher is pale and sweating, the big guy gives up on pretending and assumes she's terrified of him. Trying to maintain his composure, Yusung says he's there for the mandatory career counseling session. With a nervous little laugh, the teacher tells him to sit down and tries to focus on her work to avoid freaking out completely. Getting straight to the point, she asks what the big guy's plans are for the future, and he says he still has no idea. Shaking, the teacher drops a hint and asks if he doesn't plan on taking over the family's shady business. Desperate, the blonde already imagines the MC leading the mafia, and Yusung tries to calm the neurotic teacher's nerves. Explaining the truth, he tells her his parents own a humble restaurant in the suburbs, and the teacher breathes a sigh of relief. Understanding that he's just a cook's son, the blonde relaxes her shoulders, and the session finally starts to flow smoothly. Smiling sincerely, the teacher even jokes, saying she'd love to try the restaurant's food one day, and Yusung is grateful for the calm. Returning to the form, she asks about his favorite subjects, and the boy replies that he's good at math and science. Suggesting a career path, the teacher tells him not to choose something just based on talent, but to focus on what he truly enjoys. Opening up, the teacher says that the important thing in life is to do what you really want and not just what you're good at. Focused on her wisdom, Yusung listens attentively and realizes she's not the crazy sadist he imagined from the manga. Recalling his past, the MC confesses he was great at engineering, but hated the field with every fiber of his being. Surprised by his sincerity, the blonde vents that she never planned on being a teacher either. Blushing with embarrassment, she asks him to keep it a secret, and Yusung swears not to laugh at her past story. With a goofy smile, the teacher reveals that her biggest teenage dream was to be a famous anime voice actress. Telling the story, she remembers when she was young and fell in love with a giant cartoon robot. But when it was time to choose a career, her guidance counselor clipped her wings, saying voice acting was just a useless hobby. Advised to focus on a stable job, the blonde followed the herd and went to college for education. Confessing her regret, the teacher admits she realized her huge mistake as soon as she set foot on the university campus. Looking at a pamphlet for a voice actor event, the blonde recalls how she cried with sadness for not having followed her own heart. Frustrated, she vents that she outsourced her own future and let someone else decide her life in the blink of an eye. Giving him a golden piece of advice, the teacher asks Yusung to think very carefully before making any final decisions. Touched by the story, the Korean realizes that this advice comes from someone who has personally suffered the frustration of a bad choice. With a huge smile, the teacher ends the session on a light note, and the big guy feels immense respect for her. Getting up from his chair, Yusung thanks her from the bottom of his heart for the sincere advice, and the teacher smiles relieved. Just then, another teacher enters the room and questions if that giant was the famous Yakuza hair everyone gossips about. Shaking her head, the teacher defends the kid, saying the gang rumors are pure invention from jealous people. Confirming the MC's innocence, the blonde guarantees that Yusung is just a dedicated and very considerate student. Walking down the hall, the Korean feels like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders, and his school life seems to have gotten much easier. Relieved, the teacher tells her colleague that from now on, she won't judge students just by their brutal physical appearance. Cutting to the day of the long Golden Week holiday, the crowd squeezes into the entrance of the temple in Tokyo. Arriving early at the meeting point, Yusung calmly checks his phone and sees President Fuma sneakily approaching. Throwing a fit, the brunette points a finger in his face, yelling that the kid was late for their appointment. All dressed up, the president scolds him, asking if he has any idea what time they were supposed to meet today. Not understanding a thing, the MC shows his phone screen, proving there are still 10 minutes until the agreed-upon time. Exploding with rage, Fuma argues that the basic rule of etiquette is to arrive 30 minutes before meeting a lady. Playing dumb, the Korean apologizes, and the president scowls, saying she'll forgive his tardiness just this once. Pointing to a sweet stall, she tells him to pay for the matcha ice cream as an official apology. Rolling his eyes, Yusung questions why he has to pay for the snack, and she turns her back, ignoring his whining. Grumbling, the kid ends up paying for the spoiled president's ice cream to avoid a scene in the middle of the street. Eating the sweet treat, Fuma closes her eyes, delighted by the perfect flavor of the traditional matcha ice cream. Walking together, the brunette happily devours her ice cream while the big guy keeps up with his boss's pace. Out of nowhere, Yusung asks what the plan is for buying the school gift, and she completely freezes without an answer. Covering up her forgetfulness, she tells him to just follow her, pretending she's had everything under control from the start. Suddenly, an earpiece glints in the president's ear, and the advisor's voice guides her route. Over the radio, the four-eyed goon says there's a fancy craft shop nearby and tells her to take the big guy there. Inside the armored car, the duo of bodyguards in sunglasses monitors the date step by step from a distance. Following the lovebirds, the advisor tells the president to use her feminine charm while the secret mission unfolds. Arriving at the store, Fuma is shocked to see a gigantic solid gold Buddha statue in the middle of the room. Thinking she likes the bizarre statue, Yusung asks if it wouldn't be better to buy the golden Buddha as the official gift. Sweating bullets, the shopkeeper laughs at the joke, quoting a price of 4 million, and the president nearly has a heart attack at the cost. Laughing loudly, the brunette covers it up by praising her own refined taste and says those expensive pieces are just the beginning. Through the earpiece, the female advisor warns that the president is ruining the date and tells her to tone it down. Desperate, Fuma tells them to be quiet on the radio while Yusung notices the girl's breakdown in the middle of the luxury store. Shaking nervously, the female advisor warns that the mission here is to spy and stroll through the temple, not to blow money on nonsense. Gritting her teeth, she tells Fuma to look behind her because the target is staring at the scene very closely. Sweating bullets, the president realizes that the #1 rule of a date is not to let your partner get bored. Covering up the embarrassment, she grabs the big guy's hand, bold as brass, making up a flimsy excuse on the spot. Pulling his arm, Fuma drags Yusung away, yelling that she forgot a very important appointment to escape the expensive store. Back on the asphalt street, the Korean notices the girl breathing heavily and asks if she's really feeling unwell. Awkwardly, the brunette forces a smile and assures him it was just a silly dizzy spell, nothing serious. Maintaining her pose, she opens her fancy fan and pushes the MC again, telling him not to waste time. Receiving orders over the radio, the president follows the route and drags the boy to a traditional Japanese clothing store. In the window, the shopkeeper displays kimonos, and Fuma analyzes the store with the mission of keeping the kid occupied there. Trying to guess the exchange student's taste, the store owner suggests thicker fabrics so the foreigner doesn't get cold. Yusung drops a bomb and asks Fuma's opinion on which model best suits the situation. Full of swagger, the president cuts off the conversation, ignoring the prices, and tells the owner to just bring the best piece from the collection. Drooling over the fat commission, the saleswoman flashes a malevolent smile of pure profit and promises to bring the store's treasure. Seconds later, the owner displays a magnificent kimono, tossing the price on the table as if 500,000 yen were pocket change. Looking at the options, Yusung asks the owner to show other, less exaggerated patterns. Complaining about every detail, Fuma rejects all the kimonos, finding fault with every color. Minutes tick by, and the store floor becomes cluttered with clothes while the two can't come to an agreement. Getting into the young people's minds, the savvy saleswoman compliments the couple, using the old tactic that everything looks beautiful on her. Pushing the girl, she drops a hint and suggests trying on the fabrics to make buying the gift easier. Agreeing with the shopkeeper, Yusung supports the idea, saying it will help a lot to see the outfit on her before paying. Surprised by the pressure, Fuma is pushed straight into the fitting room, while the attendants start unbuttoning her clothes without mercy. Pulling the door, the girl panics as she's surrounded by the shop ladies who give her no room to breathe. From outside, advisor Minami hears the president's desperation and yells his teammate's name to help with the situation. Shrugging, the other guard says the boss will be fine on her own, and that she won't spoil her fun. With a cynical smile, the sunglasses-wearing colleague mocks that Fuma is lucky she doesn't have to try on clothes from scratch with help. With nowhere to run, the president cries internally, promising to maintain her composure for the sake of the secret mission. Holding back a laugh, Yusung sits on the store's sofa while the owner sucks up to Fuma, complimenting her body in the fitting room. Suddenly, a loud sound from a mobile game echoes from the big guy's phone, who is killing time with a free game. Opening the fitting room door, the girl steps into the main room, taking everyone's breath away with her stunning look. Frozen on the sofa, Yusung freezes and puts his phone aside, drooling over the girl. Focused on her, he lets out a sincere compliment, saying that Fuma looks absolutely wonderful in the traditional outfit. Smiling sheepishly, the Korean admits that the dark kimono perfectly complemented her pale skin. Laughing like a lady full of poise, the president boasts that this is the result when she decides to get serious. Satisfied with the gift, the saleswoman promises to wrap the piece, and Fuma asks for a few minutes of peace alone in the fitting room. Closing the door, the girl leans against the wall, releasing the breath she was holding in her chest. Shaking with embarrassment, the president covers her face, red as a tomato, after hearing the brute's compliments up close. Tugging at her hair, she freaks out in silence, not understanding why her heart is beating so fast over an extra. Walking down the street, Fuma notices the admiring glances from guys passing her on the pavement. Sighing in relief, the girl calms down and notices that Yusung is steadfastly protecting her from the pushes of the crowd on the sidewalk. Admiring his attitude, the president mentally agrees that the kid has a strong presence but knows how to be a gentleman when needed. Suddenly, she says goodbye and announces she's going to call her driver to come pick up the shopping and leave soon. Striking up a conversation, Yusung cuts off the idea and points out that Fuma is drawing a lot of attention just standing there, suggesting a quick snack first. Confused, the girl asks where on earth they're going to eat, and the Korean points to the neighborhood full of manga and nerdy figure shops. Not understanding a thing, the president doesn't realize they're in the middle of the city's otaku hotspot while the kid laughs at her. Misleading the girl, Yusung agrees and pulls her along the sidewalk to enter the otaku district. Sweating bullets, the bodyguards jump back, nearly getting spotted by the duo who turned the corner too quickly. Complaining, the advisor warns that they can't spy properly if the president keeps running around like a headless chicken. Shrugging, his suited partner agrees that the giant kid is obnoxious but points out that the president doesn't seem to think so. Entering a classic ramen shop, Yusung opens the door, smiling at the counter full of hot noodle steam. Without hiding his joy, the Korean swears this is the best ramen in the region, while Fuma tries to find her bearings in such a simple environment. Handing her the menu, he says he's going to hit the restroom and will be right back, while she calmly chooses her order. Suddenly, Advisor Minami freezes mid-hallway and feels a monstrous pang in his stomach. Worried, his partner asks what happened, and he writhes, clutching his stomach and cursing his own life. Deducing the problem, his colleague mocks him, saying the matcha ice cream from earlier didn't sit well with his weak stomach. Desperate, the Four Eyes cries in pain and makes a mad dash for the bathroom before the worst happens right there in the middle of the mall. Leaving the stall, the guard sighs with a cleansed soul after unloading his problem in the toilet. But as he looks up, he comes face to face with his own target, standing there washing his hands at the men's room sink. Yelling Kim Yusung's name, the advisor points his finger in panic, unable to believe the bizarre coincidence of fate. Sitting at the counter, Fuma turns her head, complaining about the big guy's delay when he finally returns to the table. Getting a colossal shock, the president lays her head to the side and sees her own security team planted right behind Yusung. Clueless, the Korean smiles and says he quietly ran into the school's vice president in the diner's bathroom. Playing the nice guy, the big guy says he invited the two of them to eat for free as a thank you. With her eye twitching in rage, Fuma clenches her fists, mentally skewering her team for ruining the secret date. With a tense smile, she invites the goons to sit down, swallowing her pride at having to tolerate the idiots at the Raymond counter. Disappointed, the president cries on the inside, lamenting that the peaceful outing turned into an excursion full of annoying people. Apologizing with her eyes, the blonde guard whispers that it was the idiot's upset stomach's fault, who couldn't hold it and caused the bust. Changing the mood, the server slams 3 giant bowls of steaming noodles in front of the group. Looking at her plate, Fuma freezes, not even knowing where to start eating the soup she's never seen before. Suspicious, Yusung bluntly asks if she's ever had ramen before, and she denies it, saying she only knows fancy rich people restaurants. Shocked by the girl's bubble, the kid laughs, thinking about how the Harris has never set foot in a common place before that day. Taking her first timid bite, the president blows on the noodles and puts them in her mouth, super curious about the seasoning. Closing her eyes, the brunette approves on the spot and praises the hot broth of the humble dish. With a huge smile, Yusung thanks her and tells her to fill up because he's paying the whole bill without fear. Drooling over the food, the vice president wants to scrape his partner's plate, but the woman yanks the chopsticks from his hand, telling him to shut up so he doesn't end up in the bathroom again. Satisfied with the food, the 4 of them face a noisy arcade right across the street to kill time. Focused on the claw machine, Fuma tries to grab a brown teddy bear, but the thing slips and falls back. She stomps her foot in frustration while the blonde guard promises to fish out the prize for her boss on the next try. On the other side of the arcade, Yusung and the 4-eyed vice president are breaking the controls, playing an insane fighting game. With a cocky smile, the advisor celebrates his victory in the match, rubbing his success in the Korean's face. With a purple aura of pure hatred rising, the MC vows revenge, thinking the rich kid is messing with him just because he's an outsider. Amused by the big guy's fury, the advisor swears he's going to crush the kid to punish him for the audacity of going out with his boss. Suddenly, both of them lose their patience and decide to settle the score with a virtual beatdown, putting more tokens in the machine. Just then, Yusung's character gets a humiliating KO, and Fuma watches the big guy's secondhand embarrassment as he loses again. Yelling indignation, Yusung refuses to accept defeat while the 4-eyes gloats, calling him weak. The MC accuses the advisor of being a video game addict and demands a fair rematch. The glint in his eye, the rich kid accepts the challenge and asks what the next contest will be. Pointing angrily, Yusung declares the rematch will be on the punching machine to settle everything with brute force. Finding it fair, the advisor taunts him, saying real men solve things with muscle, not by pressing buttons. Opening his shirt in the middle of the arcade, the Four Eyes takes off his glasses, assuming the pose of a jacked villain. In shock at the scene, Yusung realizes that the nerdy rich kid actually has Rambo's physique hidden under his business attire. Flexing his pecs, the advisor boasts about his body while the MC tries to understand how he packed so much muscle into that tight shirt. Shaking her head, his guard partner judges her friend's showboating, calling him a complete idiot. Shaking in his boots, Yusung tries to back out of the challenge and says he never agreed to a fight on the punching machine. Laughing at the Korean's fearful face, the brute yanks off his glasses and declares the duel is now official, and there's no escape. With a heavy taunt, the advisor says that if the kid chickens out, he'll be disappointed in the so-called legend of the school. Completely fired up, the vice president prepares to lay the smackdown on the machine, swearing to show the real power of the mafia. Giving a final warning, the rich kid tells the big guy to watch closely and learn how to really punch. With a thunderous war cry, the advisor channels all his strength into his arm to smash the arcade toy. Hitting the target with violence, the sound of the punch echoes throughout the place, scaring anyone passing by. Looking at the digital scoreboard, the machine displays an enviable 960 points, shattering the arcade's old record. Excited, the security team celebrates the vice president's historic score, while the MC sweats nervously. Confident, the advisor passes the baton and calls on the Korean to try his luck and beat his absurd score. Scared, Fuma tells them to stop the game because she knows if Yusung hits it for real, the whole place will come crashing down. But dominated by his male ego, the MC ignores the president and swears he'll just hit it for fun, not taking it seriously. Cracking his knuckles, the Korean prepares himself, wondering how on earth he got into a fake strength measuring contest. Focused on the machine, Yusung admits the score is silly, but if he hits too weakly, he'll be super embarrassed in front of the president. Feeling his muscles suddenly swell, he realizes the stolen body has an absurd comedy buff that only activates when the fight is ridiculous. Enveloped in a threatening purple aura, he promises to hit it hard, but not hard enough to destroy the entire block. With his eyes gleaming, he admits that holding back his monstrous strength is too difficult when he's hyped for a fight. Letting his arm fly, he decides that if he's going to break the toy, he might as well do it with style, and throws all his weight into the punch. In a flash of light and explosion, the punch connects, tearing through the air before even touching the plastic target. Confused by the strange noise, the vice president gives a crooked smile, thinking the kid's punch was too weak. But his security partner screams, pointing out that the Yusung dummy missed the leather pad and punched the machine's solid iron pillar directly. Looking at the digital scoreboard that reads 0, the machine goes silent since he hit the frame and not the force sensor. Sweating bullets, the MC hears the team's curses while trying to explain that his aim was a little rusty today. In the back of his mind, the big guy celebrates that missing was better than pulverizing the arcade and causing a huge disaster. Suddenly, the machine starts smoking and sways back and forth as if it's about to collapse at any second. With a bizarre crash, the main iron axis cracks in the middle, and the entire toy collapses onto the arcade floor. Everyone goes silent, staring at the $1 million damage, and Yusung tries to escape Fuma Yukika's murderous gaze. To break the tense mood, the vice president stylishly puts on his glasses and coolly declares the match a draw. Fleeing the arcade in a hurry, the group bails before the manager can charge them for the machine destroyed by the clumsy Korean. On the street, the group comes across a photo booth and decides the chaos has gone on long enough for one day. As the day is already turning into night, the four-eyed advisor suggests taking a souvenir group photo to mark the bizarre truce. Excited by the idea of photos with stickers, President Fuma agrees, and the group piles into the cramped booth at once. Squeezing everyone into the same square meter, the booth becomes a jumble of people trying to fit into the small screen. In a flash, the photos come out, showing Yusung and Fuma calm in the back while the two bodyguards cause a scene in the front. Analyzing the printout, the partner teases the advisor, pointing out that his eyes were closed in most of the shots. Not caring about the teasing, the president holds the photo strip affectionately and lets out a huge smile of genuine happiness. Admitting it out loud, the brunette says the photos turned out cute and that this kind of random outing is actually really fun. Feeling the good vibe, Yusung seizes the opportunity and suggests ending the whole night singing at a nearby karaoke. The night progresses with the vice president singing his heart out and making a fool of himself at karaoke while the group dies laughing. When it's the boss's turn, Fuma Yukika shows she's a great singer and surprises everyone with her perfect pitch. Sharing the microphone, Yusung joins in for a duet, and the night ends on a high note with singing and total fun. Later, in the dark of the street, the group says their goodbyes, hailing taxis to get home safe and sound. Before the car leaves, Yusung says he had a lot of fun, and Fuma waves from the back seat, agreeing with the kid. Inside the taxi, the two bodyguards are shocked as they realize the colossal blunder. they made on the day of the secret outing. Desperate, the vice president gulps and begs for the boss's forgiveness, admitting they ruined her date by meddling where they shouldn't have. Whimpering, his partner agrees they missed their chance to leave and ended up sticking to her like glue all day without a clue. With her head down, Fuma stares into space, processing the tearful apologies of her clumsy bodyguards. Suddenly, a sincere smile appears on the president's face, and she replies with complete calm that it's all okay. Shocked, the duo breathes a sigh of relief, hearing the girl say the day was more fun than she had planned. With her mind elsewhere, the brunette remembers everything that happened, recapping the smiles, the silly moments, and the time she spent with the MC. Recalling the matcha ice cream, the clothes in the store, and the punching machine disaster, Fuma admits she loved every crazy second of that day. Fiddling with the photo strip in the car seat, the girl states that those memories made her genuinely very happy. In a childhood flash, the Yakuza Harris remembers when she was still a kid, playing in the park with the same two friends from today. With a warm heart, she thanks her two bodyguards for always sticking by her through all the crazy phases of her life. Touched by the sudden declaration, the advisor and the blonde hold back tears, moved by their young boss's gratitude. Vowing to protect the girl no matter what, the four eyes cries with emotion, swearing to serve and love his boss for the rest of their lives. In the end, the emotional mood is broken by the president yelling and demanding silence in the car so the two goofs don't make so much noise all of a sudden. Out of the car, the president sends the duo off, threatening them with termination if they mess up one more time. Promising to do better next time, the bodyguards shout from inside the car as the van speeds off. The next day, the scene cuts to a dark mangaka studio, where they are frantically drawing on a digital tablet. Suddenly, the door is kicked open, and Rika barges into the office, screaming for her dad. Nervous, the blonde grills her father, reminding him of the very important friend's visit happening tomorrow, and the old man says he hasn't forgotten. Excited by the news, the mangaka smiles mysteriously, confessing he's also dying to meet this school friend. Fiddling with the computer, the old man remembers the gossip his daughter spilled about the mysterious kid and focuses on his identity. On the big day of Golden Week, Yusing arrives at Rika's door all anxious. Sweating buckets, the big guy rings the doorbell, feeling like the luckiest fan in the entire world. When the door opens, the Korean immediately bows like a reed, showing absolute respect and calling the old man sensei. Shaking, the kid can't believe he's face to face with the god of manga himself. Seeing the living legend in front of him, the MC feels the powerful aura of a creator of entire universes. Breaking the ice, the mangaka smiles from ear to ear and tells the fan to drop the formalities and come inside quickly. Striking up a conversation, Rika and her stunning blonde mother laugh at the impressed kid's face. Without ceremony, the matriarch sets a royal, worthy feast on the table to welcome her daughter's first male visitor. Thanking them for the wonderful food, the big guy starts dining with the famous family as if he belonged. Sipping wine, Nagaka reveals that Rika never stops talking about Yusung this and Yusung that, all the time at home. With a strange smile, the doting father admits he was dying to see the face of the boy who affected his daughter so much. Sweating bullets under the father-in-law's psychological pressure, the MC tries to fix his blunder by denying any romance in the air. Stuttering, he explains they are just good friends who helped each other on the first day of school with no ulterior motives. Cutting off his defensive stance, the old man laughs at the kid's panicked face, saying he was just testing him for being the girl's first guy friend. Without a second thought, Yusung blurts out in the middle of dinner that if he had a daughter like Rika, he would do the exact same thing. Yelling loudly, the girl nearly spits out her rice and asks what kind of crazy talk this is about imagining her as his daughter. Red as a pepper, the blonde argues with her mother, saying she told her the Korean's mouth has no filter. Exchanging a knowing look, Rika's parents smile, noticing the light atmosphere between the teenagers. Embarrassed, the MC doesn't understand the parents' laughter and asks if he said something really bizarre during dinner. Throwing in the towel, Rika scolds the kid, saying he has a gift for unintentionally dropping romantic bombshells at the worst possible moments. In a nostalgic tone, the mangaka confesses that his daughter grew up too fast and that the age of playing with dolls suddenly vanished. Sighing, the old man looks up at the ceiling and admits he swore the blonde would be a child forever. In a cute flashback, the father remembers when little Rika would hug her stuffed bunny, swearing eternal love. Remembering the past, the mangaka relives the scene of the little girl shouting to the world that she would marry her dad when she grew up. Suddenly, the old man shifts his focus to Yusung and says he heard the boy likes his old comics. Making the perfect move, the author invites his #1 fan for a tour of his private studio after dinner. Crying with emotion and a full stomach, the Korean agrees, nodding his head, swearing his life is now complete. Walking to the second floor, the MC follows the living art legend, almost tiptoeing with so much happiness. Opening the door to Rika's room, the blonde enters first, showing off and presenting her space to her friend. Surprised, Yusung analyzes the giant shelves and swears that the room looks more like a public library than a girl's bedroom. Announcing she's going to get snacks from the kitchen, the girl leaves the big guy alone there and tells him to wait patiently. Closing the door, the blonde swears she'll kill the Korean if he snoops through her drawers or touches her hidden things. Sitting on the fluffy floor, Yusung sweats bullets, confessing to himself that this is the first time he's ever visited a girl's room. Trying not to think dirty thoughts, the kid pulls out his phone to kill time playing a game and focus on the screen. Suddenly, the door opens again, but this time it's the blonde's hot mom who enters with a mischievous smile. Dropping the formality, the mom tells the boy to just call her Maria without the Mrs. stuff, so she doesn't feel old. Shocked by the intimacy, the MC doesn't quite understand her objective there, and Maria announces she's come to show him her daughter's dirty laundry. Huge photo album from behind her back. The mom throws the book on the table, yelling that she's going to expose Rika's dark past. Opening the first page, Maria proudly shows photos of a chubby baby drooling on a pacifier. Nervous, Yusung says that snooping through a hidden family album seems like a crime, but admits he's very curious to see the evolution. Laughing loudly, the mom pulls out the secret files, saying she used to be a professional cosplayer back in the day and passed the addiction to her daughter. Excited, Maria finds the prize-winning page, revealing that the blonde's true dark side is about to appear. Turning the page, the photo shows Rika dressed in a dark, gothic cosplay full of ruffles and an eye patch, like a cheap and I'm villainous. At that moment, Rika kicks the door open, screaming her mom's name in pure desperation, having had her secret leaked. Panicking, the blonde turns into a spicy tomato, skewering her mom with her eyes, and asks if the kid saw her humiliating photo. With his eyes shining with amusement, Yusung confirms with a sadistic smile, saying that Gothic Rika was a total nerd. Whimpering with embarrassment, the blonde pushes the giant away, swearing it was just a rebellious phase in middle school, and it never happened again. Closing the door, the mom flees the crime scene, smiling, and tells the lovebirds to have fun, forbidding her daughter from leaving the room. Morally destroyed, Rika kneels in the corner of the room, holding back tears of shame, wanting to disappear. Pleading with her partner, the girl begs him for the love of God not to tell anyone at school about that embarrassment. Agreeing, the Korean swears to keep it a secret but drops a hint, saying she doesn't have to be so ashamed of a costume. Laughing at the drama, the MC confesses that everyone has a phase where they think they're a powerful mutant with dark powers. Focused on defending herself, the blonde attacks the boy, saying a buff extra like him has certainly never cosplayed in his life. Scratching his face, Yusung decides to level the playing field and confesses that in middle school, he was a walking embarrassment. Skeptical, Rika doubts his words, and the boy pulls out his own phone, challenging her to see the proof of the crime. Looking for old photos of the body's previous owner, he finds the perfect file to shut the blonde up. Shoving the phone in her face, he tells the girl to judge the photo taken back in 6th grade. Her eyes widening, Rika's jaw drops, not believing what she's seeing on the tiny device screen. On the screen, an old photo displays a skinny, pale kid posing with bandages on his arm, pretending to be a master of darkness and summoner of the Black Dragon. Laughing uncontrollably, the blonde says he was a cute, harmless nerd and doesn't understand how his physique blew up like that in such a short time. With a calm smile, Yusung explains that he hated being a scrawny picked on by everyone, so he decided to pump iron and focus hard on bulking up before becoming an adult. Teasing the giant, Rika sighs romantically, asking if she would have liked the skinny look or the wardrobe look better if she had met him before. Not understanding the gossip, he questions where the blonde is getting this crazy. Liking his look. Idea from all of a sudden. Suddenly covering her mouth, the girl panics, realizing she let the words slip without her embarrassment filter on. Curious, the Korean backs the girl into a wall, demanding an explanation for the phrase she just threw out there. Taking a breath, Rika averts her eyes, trying to correct her slip, up in the middle of a panic attack. Stuttering uncontrollably, she makes a final decision, saying she likes him only as a great friend and partner in everything, period. Falling for the bait, Yusung agrees, relieved, confirming that real friends keep dark childhood secrets without any fuss. Opening the fitting room door, Fuma steps out, all decked out in the luxury kimono, leaving the Korean looking dumbfounded. Drooling over the look, he confesses that the outfit fits her like a glove, and the brunette gets all flustered by the direct compliment. With his heart racing, Yusung admits the president looks stunning, and the atmosphere between them suddenly becomes super heavy. Laughing like a madam, Fuma says she really put in the effort this time and thanks the big guy for coming along. Already changed, the president announces that the shopping mission is over and now it's time to leave for good. Leaving the store, the brunette notices the street's activity and realizes people are stopping to look at her while Yu-sung protects her path. Reflecting on the outing, Fuma admits she never imagined the day would be so eventful and that the boy was super attentive. Asking him to follow the route, the kid suggests a quick stop somewhere before calling the car. In a very intimate mood, the MC takes a picture of the girl, hiding his nervousness so as not to arouse the bodyguard's suspicion. Walking down the sidewalk, the duo notices a couple of losers trying to take a selfie right behind them. Outraged by the stalking, the president tells Yu-sung to hurry up to get away from the annoying crowd for good. Going with the flow, the couple runs down the street to shake off anyone too interested in their lives. Suddenly, the two bodyguards appear in the corner, calling their boss to keep her distance from the strange guy in the hoodie. Furious, the advisor tells the kid not to get close to the boss, and the MC completely ignores his tantrum. Maintaining his posture, Yu-sung continues walking with the brunette, and the female guard laments that the plan to keep the boy away has failed. At the kid's favorite Raymond shop, the two sit at the counter to give their feet a break. Without ceremony, Fuma asks him to look at the menu calmly and says she's going to the restroom to take care of some things. Out of nowhere, the four-eyed advisor's stomach starts rumbling like thunder, and he makes a face of terrible pain. Asking what's happening, his suited partner despairs upon seeing her colleague sweating bullets in the middle of the restaurant. With his stomach exploding in pain, the guy groans that the ice cream from earlier was a terrible idea for his intestines. Grabbing the four eyes by the collar, his colleague rushes to the bathroom in a desperate attempt to save the group's reputation. Soon after, Yu-sung appears in the restaurant hallway and comes face to face with the vice president running to the bathroom. Gesturing with his finger, the MC calls the guy and asks why on earth he's there with the president's team. Sweating bullets, the advisor tries to hide his presence and asks him not to tell Fuma that they're there, lurking. Fuma calling from a distance, Yu-sung pretends not to see anything and ignores the spy's presence. Returning to the table, the MC finds the brunette waiting, and the two decide to order Raymond to finally eat. With steam rising from the broth, the bowl full of noodles is placed on the table, and Yu-sung explains how to eat the dish. Looking at the plate, Fuma asks if they're going to eat all of that together, and the Korean nods. Astonished, the brunette had never eaten in a common place like this and asks if it's the kid's first time too. The MC says he's always seen people eating on TV, but eating there was a new and delicious experience. Watching the rich girl slurp down the noodles, Yu-sung reflects that she's never experienced simple, common people situations. Eating clumsily, the brunette approves of the taste and says the street food is surprising. Smiling, Fuma admits her belly is warm and thanks him for the recommendation that saved her dinner. Yu-sung celebrates that she liked the dish, and the date's atmosphere seems to have worked out despite the setbacks. Finished with the meal, the big guy offers to pay for everything while the female guard gives him a dirty look. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the noisy arcade, where the group goes to burn off the rest of their energy. In the center of the room, Fuma tries to get a teddy bear from the claw machine, but it falls again, and she freaks out. With the blonde guard promising to get the prize for her boss, Yu-sung faces off against the vice president at the game machine. In a warlike atmosphere, the advisor demolishes the Korean in the fighting game and boasts about his victory. Gritting his teeth, Yu-sung gets worked up and decides on a rematch of virtual fisticuffs to wash away the shame. With his temper flaring, the MC feels like the vice president is mocking Koreans and vows to crush the loser. Laughing at the big guy's desperation, the advisor challenges him to pay the bill for the humiliation of losing so many times. With tokens to spare, Yu-sung yells for him to bring it on and gets serious about the game. In a master move, the opponent delivers a violent KO and Yu-sung is left frozen on the screen. In disbelief, the Korean freaks out, asking where the guy was hiding when he was badmouthing his people earlier in the day. With a vein popping on his forehead, Yu-sung snarls with rage at the arrogant advisor's mockery. Challenging the big guy, the Four Eyes tells the Korean to face the punching machine to settle it with his fists. Sealing the deal, the MC decides the final contest will be one of brute force to stop the trash talk. Taking off his shirt, the advisor reveals that his physique is much more brutal than it appeared in his office clothes. Focused, Yu-sung tries to hide his shocked expression, seeing that the student council nerd is a hidden bodybuilder. Yelling with his muscles on fire, the opponent prepares his blow to set an unbeatable record. Smashing the machine, the guy's punch makes the digital scoreboard hit 960 points, shattering everything. Celebrating the historic record, the security team cheers while the MC faces the final challenge with a trembling arm. Asking him not to break the toy, the president tries to intervene, but Yu-sung says he's curious to see the limit of his own strength. Scowling, the kid takes a deep breath, promising himself he'll do what's necessary without causing total destruction. Concentrating his energy, the big guy feels the manga's power flow through his biceps while his opponent watches with a superior look. Knowing the character has a muscles of steel buff, Yusung focuses on blowing up the scoreboard without shattering the iron frame. Preparing the ultimate punch, he feels the electricity of the purple aura and punches the center of the machine with the will to win. The impact is so insane that the machine structure cracks completely before the rubber ball even hits the back. With smoke billowing from all sides, the punching machine scores 0 points and shuts off for good, leaving the advisor looking like an idiot. Not even knowing what to say, Yusung scratches the back of his neck while the president looks at the wreckage of the destroyed machine. With the score at 0, the advisor stammers, not understanding if the blow was a mistake or if the big guy is simply a monster. Seeing the smoke coming from the iron, the MC concludes that being an extra is an impossible mission if he keeps causing disasters like this. Facing the shocked looks of the security team, he decides to pretend the punch was nothing special and get out of there. With an air of defeat, the advisor convinces himself that he tied in brute strength with the hooded guy. Satisfied with his false victory, the rich kid swears that next time he'll crush the Korean in a real championship. Rushing to the bathroom to hide, the group decides to take some photos in a sticker booth to forget the fight. Caught up in the confusion, the group crowds together to capture the day's memory and smiles for the lens without thinking about tomorrow. With the photo in hand, Fuma discovers the guy in sunglasses had his eyes closed and laughs at life's absurdity. After the holiday, the brunette admits she enjoyed seeing Yusung's human side on that out of the ordinary outing. At the karaoke, the vice president sings his heart out, yelling any song while Yusung and the president put on a duet show. Focused on the music, the two forget about life and enjoy the rest of the night as if there's no tomorrow. Heading for the taxi, the group says goodbye in total peace after so much drama and confusion at the mall. Inside the car, the brunette thanks the big guy for being the most insane adventure partner she's ever had. Emotional with the photos in her hand, the president vows to keep that moment in her heart forever as a rare gift. Without wasting time, the bad guy goes in with a devastating punch aimed at Yusung. Like reflex, the Korean dodges and lands a precise counter attack on the psycho's face. Grabbing Sasha by the hand, the kid drags the heroine to a hidden corner to escape the shootout. Hidden there, the buff guy assures her she's safe and says his protection is premium level. Frozen with fear, Sasha leans against the wall while Yusung monitors the situation outside. With a clenched fist, the Korean notices that these guys are not your average street thugs. Cornered by 3 agents, Yusung takes a deep breath, preparing for the beatdown to come. Without any mercy, the monster enters the fray, showing he's not messing around. In a bloody blow, the big guy knocks out the first on the list, proving that in romance manga, the one with the biggest muscles is the boss. Stretched out on the ground, the goons groan in pain while Yusung positions himself as the king of the area. Calling for a confrontation, the kid signals for Sasha to retreat and assures her he'll handle this problem alone. One of the agents charges forward, wanting to avenge his colleague's defeat, but ends up getting a dose of humility. Snorting with rage, Yusung goes into berserker mode and warns that no one is going to ruin his day. Out of nowhere, Captain Boris appears on the scene with the face of a professional villain. Analyzing the enemy, the Korean realizes the boss is much beefier than expected. Looking at Boris, the kid wonders if that guy also has the famous romantic comedy muscle buff. Surrounded by fire and determination, Boris prepares to strike, wanting to prove he's the king of the beatdown. Trembling in panic, Sasha begs Yusung to get out of there, stating that the captain is unbeatable in a fight. With a confident smile, Boris advances, wanting to show why he's the terror of the underworld. With a small smirk, Yusung thinks that underestimating an extra because of a label is the villain's fatal mistake. Determined to end this as quickly as possible, the MC sets his guard for the final fight. In a blur of purple energy, he rushes towards the captain, giving the guy no chance to breathe. Startled by the speed, Boris tries to react, but is met with a heavy hand locking his wrist. Spinning his body, Yusung uses his opponent's weight against him in a perfect judo move. Holding on tight, Boris tries to escape, but the big guy traps the psycho in a cruel armbar. On the ground, the captain slams his face down hard while Yusung presses his opponent into the asphalt with brute force. Groaning in pain, Boris doesn't understand how he lost control so easily to a high school kid. Pressing on his ribs, Yusung nearly breaks the villain in half before Boris screams for mercy. Locking the captain's hip, the Korean throws his enemy far away, feeling that victory is his. The job, Yusung lifts Boris with one hand, showing who's boss. With his eyes gleaming with fury, Yusung locks Boris's joints, leaving the veteran with no way out. On the villain's face, you can see the desperation of someone who knows their spine is about to snap. In a master stroke, the big guy throws the captain high into the air, turning the tables in a humiliating way. Fallen on the ground, Boris feels the sting of humiliation as he watches the victor from afar. Without looking back, the Korean continues on his way, leaving the mafia trash strewn across the park. Holding his arm, Yoo-sung grumbles that if he gets injured and can't train tomorrow, he's going to have a fit. Atrociously, Sasha checks if her savior is okay after the intense fight. Completely lost, the blonde wonders how a random student can be so dangerous and strong. On the other end of the phone line, the mafia boss receives the bombshell news of Boris Zarov's fall. In disbelief, the kingpin doubts the defeat of his best soldier, the guy who had never lost a duel in his life. Receiving the description of the so-called Black Yasha, the boss turns pale as he recognizes the legend everyone feared. With his face sweating coldly, the villain asks if it's possible the monster has reappeared on the map. Looking at the reports, the informant confirms that the Black Yasha has resurfaced in Tokyo to cause absolute chaos. Spreading the gossip online, rumors of the confrontation in Akihabara send the Japanese underworld into a panic. In the darkness, a mysterious contact observes the data and wonders why the so-called Yasha disappeared without a trace in the past. With a glint in her eyes, the council's brunette comments that the new mafia members are a bunch of ignoramuses. Recalling the legendary God of Fist tournament of '99, a flashback shows Ivan the Destroyer searching for a worthy successor. The mystery surrounding the Fuma Kotaro, who appeared out of nowhere, grows as the masked ninja looks into the shadows. The report says that even after fighting only once, Kotaro reached the final and became an unbeatable legend. Thoughtfully, the president asks if it's true that Kotaro has really returned, leaving the atmosphere heavy. Opening the apartment door, the president invites Yoo-sung to enter her home without ceremony. Through the neighborhood, Fuma seems like a different person, much more relaxed than when she's at school. Upon entering the room, she comes face to face with her mangaka father, who is ready to welcome the manga master. The mood completely changes when the maid and the family welcome Yoo-sung with a maid cafe-style feast. Rika and Sasha by his side. Poor Yoo-sung is mortified by the exaggerated reception. Slapping his forehead, the MC asks why Rika had to take him to a maid cafe of all places as a mandatory visit. Sitting at the table, the three of them look dumbfounded, while the cute decorations try to win their hearts. Looking at Rika's photo album, Yoo-sung jokes that they look like lost tourists at an otaku convention. Furious, the blonde tells him to shut up and stop counting how many times he's laughed at her. Afraid of being seen, Yoo-sung grumbles that he can't show his face for a few weeks because of the company's mess. Explaining the tech-related beef, the Korean says the enemy company's squad uses an electromagnetic pulse to fry everything. Luxia in the middle of the Battle of Giants, Yoo-sung wonders why on earth they wanted to kidnap Sasha now, of all times. Adjusting her cap, Sasha says she's not just some rich kid and that her lineage is serious business. Cutting off the conversation, a maid with cat ears appears with a super colorful and fragrant plate of food. Excited, Sasha invites Yoo-sung to eat while he tries to maintain his alpha male posture. With the maid insisting, Sasha warns that there's a mandatory purification ritual before the first bite. Not understanding, Yoo-sung looks at the blonde, who is laughing at him before the shenanigans begin. Making a heart with her hands, the maid forces the couple to repeat the ridiculous gesture to activate the flavor. Yelling Momo Kion for the whole cafe to hear, the cat-eared girl makes the poor MC sweat with embarrassment. Wanting to disappear from the face of the earth, Yoo-sung refuses to do the gesture and Sasha laughs at him trying to keep his cool. Red as a hot coal, the kid tries to contain his ladder and embarrassment while the maid waits for the gesture. Giving in to the pressure, Yoo-sung makes the heart and Sasha nearly dies laughing, seeing the buff guy surrender to maid culture. After the humiliation, the Korean tries to regain his respect while the employee goes back to her work. Exhausted from all the stress, the MC attacks the plate and confesses that the food is actually pretty decent. Finishing the meal, the maid returns to see if the service met their expectations, and the group bails before someone asks for another dance. The maid cafe atmosphere is unforgiving, and Yoo-sung ends up losing the round of the game. With the verdict delivered, the cat-eared maid warns that the loser's punishment is a tough one. Without any mercy, the boy is forced to wear the kitty headband and end every sentence with a cute "Nia." In absolute shock, the Korean tries to negotiate, but Sasha laughs and says the rule is clear. Gritting his teeth with pure embarrassment, the kid accepts his fate and decides he's going to win the next one no matter what. Getting serious, Yoo-sung shuffles the cards like a pro player in a world tournament. Already in character, the poor MC lets out a hateful Nia, while a purple aura of despair takes over him. Losing again, the kid lets out an FF of frustration while Sasha laughs until she's out of breath. With his ego completely shattered, the Korean vows revenge, promising that the next round will be his definitive victory. Getting up from the table, the duo decides to bail to save what little dignity Yoo-sung has left. Outside, the sun sets and Sasha celebrates the super fun day while the big guy still laments not winning a single game. Being sincere, the blonde says that even without seeing any tourist spots, the day was worth every second because of his company. Her expression changing, Sasha turns to Yu-sung and says she has an urgent confession to make right now. His eyes widening, the kid hears that the guys he beat up in the park were bodyguards hired by her father. Pale, the girl admits she ran away from the hotel to explore Japan without telling anyone, and that the situation has become a mess. Warning that she'd better go back to the hotel before her family freaks out, Yu-sung says he'll walk her there. Suddenly, the sound of a helicopter cuts through the sky, and Sasha smiles nervously, seeing what's coming. A deep voice echoes from above, yelling that he's finally found his runaway daughter, in the middle of the city. With the helicopter's lights illuminating the park, Yu-sung and Sasha freeze in place, not understanding anything. The thunderous landing kicks up dust, and the girl's father steps out of the transport with the air of an absolute boss. With his sunglasses on, Sasha's dad announces that the game of hide and seek is over. Focused, Yu-sung analyzes the man and instantly realizes he's facing someone powerful and very dangerous. Asking how on earth her father found them so quickly, Sasha is floored by the ease of the discovery. Putting the chat aside, the boss positions himself and announces that this is a strictly personal matter between him and his daughter. Walking towards them, the man skewers Yu-sung with his gaze as if analyzing an enemy's body. Trying to protect her friend, Sasha takes the blame. But her father doesn't even listen. Realizing the man's dangerousness, the MC understands that this is Sasha's dad. Curious about the guy's fluent Japanese, Yu-sung asks how a foreigner can speak their language so well. Becoming the target of his attention, the boy is startled when the boss mentions the name, Black Yasha, in Tokyo. Pointing to his own chest, the Korean asks if he's talking about him, and Sasha is left speechless, not understanding the nickname. The villain remembers 10 years ago, when the legendary Black Yasha simply vanished from the map without a trace. With his chest puffed out, the enemy invokes the past and challenges Yu-sung to a definitive showdown. Yelling with fury, Boris Zarov swears that today, he will finish the fight they left pending years ago. Not getting why there's so much confusion, Yu-sung asks who this guy is to be collecting a debt from another century. With a doubtful look, the Korean says he's never heard of this Fuma Kotaro in his life. Faced with the confusion, Sasha's father observes the two, as if waiting for the first move. Thinking the kid is playing dumb, Boris warns that he won't show any mercy. Trying to argue, the MC insists the guy is confusing him with someone else, but the villain couldn't care less. Confronting the guy, Sasha's father asks how the kid managed to beat up Boris earlier. Calmly explaining, Yu-sung apologizes for the incident and tries to explain it was just a little park scuffle. With his ego wounded, Boris ignores the explanation and drops the bomb, saying he's never been so humiliated in his life. Accumulating energy, the villain glows with an intense blue and charges forward to turn the Korean into dust. Seeing the destruction, Yu-sung realizes Boris isn't playing around, and that he'll have to fight for real now. Sasha watches everything, shaking, while the Korean tries to calm the beast to avoid a massacre in the park. With his eyes narrowed, Yu-sung prepares to defend his own life against the captain's insane attack. With a small smirk, Boris the boy to show the real power he's been hiding. Yu-sung drops his backpack full of manga on the ground and goes into full combat mode. Yelling that he doesn't forgive those who treat his beloved works like that, the kid charges forward in a counter-attack. In a blur of light, Yu-sung moves through the air, aiming for the villain's weak spot. In a colossal impact, Boris is thrown against the wall, feeling the pressure of the Korean's punch. Impressed by his power, the villain smiles, enjoying the fight, and admits the kid is really strong. Blood in his eyes, with Boris asks why Yu-sung is going to the trouble of protecting the girl. Out of patience, Yu-sung yells that the guy is a genius, but is wasting his time with these useless fights. Defending his right-hand man's honor, Boris attacks again with a force that shakes the park's foundations. In a clash of fists, the air around them makes a deafening noise that scares anyone passing by. Analyzing his enemy, Boris realizes the kid has a unique gift that appears once every 100 years. Putting fear aside, Yu-sung goes into autopilot, ignoring the damage he takes. With his energy exploding, Boris prepares the finishing blow to end the Yasha's lineage. With a fixed gaze, Boris makes an indecent proposal for the kid to join his team and drop out of school. Swinging his fist, the villain swears he'll take Yu-sung to the top of the world if he accepts the blood pact. Standing in the middle of the battlefield, Yu-sung realizes his reality is nothing like he imagined. Understanding that the world of the manga, Scramble Love, has turned into a battlefield, he accepts his role. Reflecting on the villain's words, the Korean realizes his impactful lines come straight from fighting manga. He remembers that in the beginning, everything seemed like a glitchy romantic comedy, but now things have gotten really serious. With his jacked body, Yu-sung understands that all the effort in his heavy training was to survive in this insane new world. Realizing that fights are inevitable, he accepts that his destiny is to beat up a lot of psychos from now on. Reflecting that his absurd brute force only serves to create more chaos, he concludes that life is an eternal combat. Looking at the sky, he notices that the story has changed course and turned into a hardcore fighting manga with no going back. He's certain that the publisher and the author flipped the script to compete in the tough JUMP rankings. Seeing the manga cover, the kid realizes that trying to maintain a romantic routine in a fighter's world is a waste of time. Imagining the author sweating at his desk to adapt the plot, he sees the course of events change drastically. Realizing that any mistake could be fatal, he focuses on the next blow that will decide his life. Knowing that dangerous monsters will pop up from every corner, he prepares to defend his own existence. Boris offering him a job, Yusung realizes his life is now truly on the line. Ignoring the offer of money and power, the kid clenches his fist, ready to grind Boris down to the last drop of energy. Facing Boris with an insane smile, Yusung realizes that this fight is the perfect cliché of a battle manga. Remembering that Sakamoto is the protagonist destined to win in the end, he does the basic mental math for survival. Embracing the blonde, the MC concludes that sticking close to the protagonist is the golden rule to ensure he doesn't die in the middle of the plot. Letting out a sigh of relief, Captain Boris takes a step back, feeling that the kid is taking the duel very seriously. Yusung yells, asking why the old man is so extreme with everything he does as the atmosphere grows heavy. Fast move, Boris advances and lands a solid blow that knocks the wind out of the kid's lungs. Feeling a sharp pain, Yusung understands that the captain isn't kidding and that his goal is to send the MC to the hospital. Preparing his next attack, Boris jokes that he was going to go easy on him for being Sasha's dad, but he quickly changed his mind. Seeing an opening in the enemy's guard, the big guy advances to attempt a desperate counter-attack. Staring intently, Boris remains calm, like someone who has been through 1,000 battles and isn't fazed by the student's fury. Cursing his own luck, Yusung realizes the captain is an indestructible wall in his path. Opening his arms, Boris charges the blue energy that crackles in the air like pure electricity. Giving a master's tip, the villain says he's going to teach him how a real man should fight. Closing his fist with absurd pressure, Boris shows that every move must be calculated to take down the opponent. With his eyes gleaming with fury, Boris states that no matter who is in front of him, a punch must be thrown with the clear intention to kill.